to the sound. To the sound.
All right, now you can hear me. Yeah, my technical problem was fixed. Sorry about that. Had a little false start, but no big deal. Didn't get very far into it. And you know what? I should learn by now to check my live chat probably immediately after I go live, right? Because they're tuned in and they'll be letting me know whether I'm completely muted or some technical problem. So thank you for that. Anyways, hi, welcome. I'm having a little bit of late night show tonight, just to ask you guys for a little bit of assistance on a show that I'm doing on the Non Sequitur Show this Sunday. It is a very, very, I guess you can say, non-planned out show, to say the least. It wasn't something I was going to be talking about on Non Sequitur this month, but I guess it's pretty apropos that I do, considering this is June and this is Pride Month. So I'm having a discussion on the philosophy of Pride Month, and this kind of came about spontaneously off of Twitter. Since I was on Twitter, and you guys know how I am on Twitter, I say a lot of things, and I believe a lot of things, and I like to have discussions with people that can articulate a coherent and cogent rejoinder to me, somebody that can actually have a response. I like that. I don't like when somebody just throws out pejoratives, invectives, and starts insulting people, and you have no idea in the world what their actual position is. It's very difficult to try to ascertain whether somebody has a position similar to you or different if they don't give you any straight answers. So that seems to be the case on Twitter a lot. So anyways, I did run across this atheist. No, I'm not just going to say he's atheist, but I'm going to say a YouTube philosopher who goes by the name of Atlas, that asked to come on the show. And I have, a kind of a standing policy. Sure, if somebody wants to discuss with me real time these topics, I'm happy to do so. I prefer panelist rather than one-on-one, but it depends on the topic. This one, I happen to prefer a panelist type situation because we're going to be discussing some of the pros and cons with the current LGBT plus community and what I consider to be more gender critical or radical activism, inclusive of what I think is known as repressive tolerance and things that try to shut down conversations rather than discuss any valid or viable criticisms that somebody has against a particular community. So I'm not going to sit there and say LGBT plus, it's just too many letters. I'm just going to say the Pride community, just for the sake of simplicity here. So everybody knows, I've long since supported the Pride community. I think that, there's nothing wrong with having a Pride Month. Different minorities and marginalized groups have had Pride Months to try to help them get, I think, more, I don't want to use the word normalized because it's going to be taken out of context, but I definitely think more equality across the board. I mean, minorities have had suffering for thousands of years, depending on the minority. And so when we have things like Black History Month or Pride Month, it's to point out that these communities have had their share of persecution and have come a long way and overcome them. And those kind of things should be celebrated, that things have been overcome. And I try to explain on Twitter that my view has not changed really in 50 years. In like 5 decades, I pretty well have had the same positions I've always had when it comes to these things. I've always been more of a centrist. I don't like radicalizations of things. I don't like co-opting of movements for other people's agendas. And I see that kind of happening with the Pride community. And I'm not the only one. I mean, members in the Pride community have voiced their opinions to me, saying that they agree with me on a lot of things that I'm talking about. But then you get the persons who come in and just wants to throw out words like bigot or transphobe or homophobe, rather than actually discuss the dialogue. And I find that to be disingenuous. But anyways, this person, Atlas, disagreed with me on a few topics that I want to specifically point out on the philosophy of YouTube, philosophy of Pride Month this Sunday. But I'm looking for panelists who wants to join, especially women. And I am going to point it out there, biological women. Trans women are fine too. I mean, if you're trans, you're gay, you're straight, you're bi, you're whatever, you want to join, it's an open panel. I have nothing against that. But I am specifically trying to find biological women that would wish to join. The reason being is one of the things that have came up in the discussions on Twitter is the question of, one, are trans women who are biologically male who transition to being gender female, are they no longer biological males? Because according to Atlas, he seemed to be arguing that. Actually, he said it was irrelevant, but he definitely, has that argument that trans women are women. But when I ask him, well, are they biological males still? He just says it's irrelevant, which I find to be very, very, to me, disingenuous. But we'll ask him on Sunday. But it led into the conversation of the question: do women, biological women, have valid concerns when talking about things such as biological males, whether they're post-op, pre-op, doesn't matter, just transgender males that are biologically male still, because he hasn't shown that they're no longer biologically males? Do they have valid concerns such as showering with them in locker rooms, showering with them in high school, especially locker rooms, and of course in sports, which has been talked about in many, many, many other videos? It used to be during the feminist movement that women would try to speak up, and as a marginalized group that didn't have the same rights as men for many, many years. I mean, women's suffrage was a real thing. That after, they got the right to vote and had equality, and even though, sure, I'm not going to say that the road is ended for them on that, but I do think that in 2023, women probably now enjoy more equality with men than they ever had in the history of this country. If you disagree with that on that, that's fine. You're welcome to your opinion. I just don't know what you think they're still marginalized for. But I mean, of course, like I said, the road's not ended, but most women I talk to feel like they can voice themselves and have an opinion, and not be shot down for it, not be treated like a second-class citizen or a domesticated housewife, especially what you would find in other countries. But this person, Atlas, says that he doesn't feel that women have valid concerns in this, which really struck me odd, because I am not a feminist. I subscribe to first and second wave, sure, but third and fourth wave especially, I denounce, especially fourth and fifth wave feminism. But I understand the reason for feminism, and I'm not against feminism. I'm not anti-feminist. I certainly believe that there's a reasons for it for first and second wave. But like any other organization, I believe it got hijacked and co-opted for a more radicalization version of feminism. And I know a lot of feminists who agree with that. I'm not just putting that out there as a mere opinion. I think a lot of 70s and 80s and even 90s feminists would probably say they wouldn't like the way the feminist movement changed in the 2010s and 2020s. But for him to say that women have not a valid concern that a biological male is showering with them, to me seemed really strange. And especially even in the high school level or the elementary school level, or some of the, the fact that these are, again, biological males. And so I try to have empathy. I try to put myself in somebody else's situation. And if I was a female, I've thought to myself, would I personally be comfortable showering with men, biological men? And the answer is no, I wouldn't be. Now, if it's a condition where it's something along the lines of like being in the military, then I can understand somebody saying, well, you just need to suck it up. If you think it's icky, who cares? You're in the military. You have a job to do. And I get that. And I don't even have a problem with that. If you're in the military and the only showers you have are co-ed and you have to shower with females, you just do it. That's the military. And the same thing would be for like firefighters or policemen or any kind of paramilitary. Things are a little bit different, I think, for those types of organizations, which you know what you're getting into. But in the military, we don't really care what gender you are, what sex you are. Nobody cares. It is, can you do your job? And so when you're showering together or anything like that, it's nothing sexualized because you are there to do your job. And I think the military has a different mindset that the average civilian probably doesn't have in those types of situations. But again, I digress a little bit because we're talking about the civilian community where women have expressed that they have a very real fear of biological males being in the same confines with them when they're they consider themselves to be exposed, right? I mean, when you're taking a shower, you're completely naked, except if you're Mormon, I guess. No, I'm just kidding. They do. But I can understand that because historically men are more dominant, men are usually more powerful, they have the ability to be more aggressive, and especially women that might have had any trauma in their early life, it could be very upsetting. And I hate to use the word triggering, but this would be one particular case where triggering would be the word to use. And so I thought to myself, can I put myself in the position of a woman, and would I be concerned? And that isn't just, feminism. I'm sure that would be included in feminism, but that's just, I think, to me, common sense. I think it's common sense that if you're a biological woman, you probably are not going to want to have a fully exposed male in front of you when you're trying to shower. I mean, and even especially when you're in elementary school where people are very, very self-conscious about their bodies. And this is stereotypical, but generally speaking, women are more self-conscious about their bodies than men on average. Again, stereotypes don't necessarily mean negativity or harmful things. Some things are just the case. Men stereotypically prefer more masculine things. Women tend to stereotypically prefer more female things. This is not rocket science. This is not something that should be considered to be radical thinking. This is just your average societal things. These are your societal norms. And so for him to argue that, I myself can only step into a woman's shoes and say, this is how I would feel hypothetically. And there's nothing wrong with hypotheticals. Absolutely nothing wrong with them. I mean, I'm sure there are some hypotheticals that are so far extreme that to contemplate them would just be lunacy. And I get that. Some people try to do the most radical hypothetical. And I get they're just trying to be sophistic. But in other cases, hypotheticals really do give us an insight whether our positions are cogent, whether they are rational. And this is not just hypotheticals. These things are happening across the country. But the hypothetical is that, can I identify as a woman and think, would I be upset? Well, clearly, it has to be a hypothetical. I do not identify as a woman because I'm a guy. But like Demi Lovato, she changed her pronouns from they, them to she, her, because she got tired of convincing or trying to explain to people what they, them pronouns mean. And so she went back to she, her, which I think is hilarious. So I wrote something along the lines of, I went back to he, him after having to explain to people he, him pronouns. So I just went back to he, him because, having explained he, him pronouns to people nowadays is confusing, apparently. But I would like to have women come on the panel Sunday and give their point of view on this, whether they agree or disagree. I mean, obviously I prefer if they agree, because I'd like to find a woman that will argue and articulate their concerns from their point of view. I do think that is important, but I think it's really strange that I'm getting flack for supporting women's rights. I really am blown away that I'm getting flack on Twitter for supporting feminism when I'm not even a feminist. That I think women should have the right to have safe spaces where they are away from men when they are nude. I am sorry. I get it. I totally understand. But I'm being vilified for that. And I find that to be extremely weird. I really do. So anyways, that's what this particular hangout is for. If you guys are interested, or if you know anybody that's interested, please tag them on the Twitter timeline and ask them if they would like to join this Sunday. And again, if you know a woman especially who would like to join, I'd love to get Dr. Fonda Beatles, Dr. Emma, but it's just short notice, but I will eventually get her on. She has expressed interest in getting on, and I really agree with a lot of things she has to say. But, I still would like, just the average citizen, so to speak, because she's a PhD in evolutionary biology, but I like the average woman just to say, look, these are my concerns, and you are not listening to my concerns. And so funny, because the entire Pride community is built upon listening to validations of people's concerns, that they feel like they're being listened to. And I understand that, and I get that. But as I put out on Twitter, it used to be that the Pride community was trying to get to the position where we didn't care about their sexuality, that you could sleep whatever you wanted with, nobody cared. The whole free love thing in the 60s and into the 70s was predicated on people not caring who they slept with or who they were attracted to. And that was the push, the big movement for the Pride community that I wholeheartedly accept and still to this day will always promote, because we all want people to not care who we are attracted to. That should be the goal. It really should be. When somebody says, oh, you just want us to be ignored. Well, yeah, like the rest of us. I want my sexual, proclivities and my sexual interest to be ignored by people. It's none of their business, except for the people I'm interested in that I'm dating or I like. Oh my crap. Siggy, to gift you 10 memberships. Damn, Siggy. Thank you, dude. I appreciate that very much so. And I'd like you to join on Sunday as well, Siggy. Even though you and I disagree on a lot, you have a very, very strong way of giving pushback, and I actually like it. I really do. So please join us on Sunday, because I really would like your input on this particular topic. And so let me go through my live chat real quick. But I kind of wanted to finish my train of thought. Oh yeah, about the Pride community. It was the big push that before that it was to basically have people not care that they were gay. It wasn't to ignore them. It was just go, oh, hey, you're gay. Cool. Let's go have a beer. Or, hey, you're gay. What of it? It's like the goal was to have nobody care. And we got to that point. But then, unfortunately, I think the Pride community got hijacked by more radicalization arm of it, that they wanted to push it much further. And then they started, moving into the biological women being, or biological men trying to be, women, trans women, and kids. And at that point, I think it was very, very, very a different form of the communities that I had, known for decades, because that wasn't involved 20 years ago. Nobody was saying, hey, we should have these books with graphic sexual depictions of positions to 10-year-olds. We have that now. I mean, you're going to get that sound like 10 times. Thanks, Siggy. Hear that? Yeah, it's not going to stop now. So I think that's why Siggy does it. Siggy just like, what? I'm just going to mess with Steve. I'm just going to mess with his stream and gift all these memberships so he gets that annoying sound alert that I cannot figure out for the life of me how to stop, even though I know it's an alert box, but I still can't figure out how to stop it once it started. I could turn it off and see if that works. Does that work? Did it? I turned it off on my StreamYards. I'm assuming my OBS. Oh, maybe it did. Maybe that did work. Wow. Ha! Gotcha back, Siggy. See? Now I figured out how to stop it. But anyways, thank you for that, Siggy, very much so. But I was saying, that was the push. Now, though, they want everybody to know about their sexuality. It seems like everybody else out there is, who you're attracted to. Oh, are you pansexual, omnisexual, demisexual, transsexual? Are you gay? Are you straight? Are you bi? It's like the first question nobody asks you anymore. It's like, really? It should be nobody else's business unless you choose to give that information to somebody. It isn't the core of somebody's existence. And I think a lot of people, and this is what I'll be talking about on Sunday, a lot of people have attached themselves to the Pride community in order to feed their egotism and to feed their narcissism, that they want attention. They want the attention, negative or positive, that they are someone special. We see it in the Flat Earth community. We see it in a lot of different other communities where people want that attention. And I think those radicalized people that just want that attention have done grave harm to the Pride community. And I've spoken up about that, and I have been vilified for that, even though I'm speaking up, trying to prevent more harm to the Pride community. But anyways, let's look at the chat here real quick. Willie! Hi, Willie Mays. Oh, Flamo. Sunday is Father's Day, Steve. Do you want to talk about feminism? Sure, why not? I don't care. But thank you for reminding me of that. Even I did remember Father's Day is coming up. So we got some gifts here. Christopher, Canadian Atheist. You're now a member of the Steve McRae channel, Christopher. Congratulations, Canadian Atheist. Green Worm member, Peter Harrington. Oh, he's always been an official member anyways. Peter Harrington. We got Grouchy, Lady Firebrand, Josh, and Milwaukee Atheist. SK Positive, who I've never heard of, but thank you. And Mama of 3. So, is that Alice, by the way? That's not Alice, is it? I hope not. I don't want to deal with her. No. Okay, it's not. Is it? Is that Alice? Oh, God, I hope not. And anyways, though. What else we got here? So, thank you, Siggy. And Siggy, ARS 666. Siggy says the problem is when the concepts are part of a trope that has already been discussed publicly. We're discussing bathrooms again. I thought we're done with this back in 2015. Hail Sagan. Well, yes and no, right? The problem that we were talking about before when we were talking where the bathrooms were just, who to go, where to pee. This is actually showering, right? This is actually people in sports where they are in a locker room where they have said that a trans athlete can shower with biological females. And there's obviously, I think, some major issues with this. It's not a matter of where you want to go pee. It's way beyond that, right? I mean, here you have somebody who is a woman trying to shower, and they have to look at, the male anatomy for somebody who is biologically male, even though they identify as a female. And I have some arguments against that, and I will probably bring them up on Sunday because I don't want to waste them now unless you guys want me to run them by you to see if they're good arguments or not. I will do that, but that's up to you if you want me to. I'll give you a hypothetical argument if you want me to. If not, I'll save it for Sunday. But I think that again, it has nothing to do with the bathrooms. It has to do with things like housing transgender women in women prisons. Just recently, 4 inmates got impregnated by a inmate that was biologically a male that had a full reproduction system. And of course, somebody could say, well, rape is horrible regardless whether in jail or anything like that. And we all understand that. But as a woman in prison, do they not have the right to feel like they are at least protected from the possibility even of being impregnated? I think that they should have that right because they don't have the ability to leave on their own. They are in a prison. And when you house a male prisoner there or a transgender woman who has male anatomy there are some problems, and that should be discussed. You can't just sweep it under the rug. You can't just say, oh, it's bigotry or transphobic. No, nobody's listening to that anymore. At least nobody that I've been talking to. A lot of more people are going, you know what? We don't want to hear those terms, bigot or transphobe. We have valid concerns, and you are just ignoring those valid concerns, and that's why there's so much pushback for these types of communities. Rod Fee says it's really weird how focused people are on other genitalities. Well, yes, I mean, to a certain extent, but again, we are humans, right? I mean, we are biological creatures. I mean, men have arousal for biological reasons when they see an attractive woman, right? This is just nature taking its course. How you act upon it, of course, is a completely different story. I mean, if you are looking at a beautiful woman and you get aroused, that's biology. If you, suddenly, violate her space in order to get your jollies, then you have broken the law and you need to be held accountable, right? There's a complete difference between thinking something and acting and having natural biological responses. Rod Fiesel says, he says, I'm a gangling felon. Anyone asking me that is wanting to swallow their teeth. Let's see here. Siggy is a member for 1 month. New hole. Thank you, Siggy. He says, yeah, but I mean, trans women are already effectively banned from sports. Well, yeah, but no, not really. And again, this is some recent changes that have come along, Siggy. Newer things have come about where trans athletes have been now more prohibited in competing against predominantly women's sports. And again, we can talk about that on Sunday. The rights, the wrongs, what we feel. But my whole thing has been, let's have the conversation. Let's talk about it. And other people on Twitter says, no, you can't even talk about this. You're just a bigot. You can't talk about this. You're a transphobe. You can't talk about this. And yet you have people in the pride community going, well, we want to talk about this. We want to talk about, should we have sexual education of explicit natures to 10-year-olds in elementary school? Because that's what's happening. And it does happen. Now, I remember in 6th grade, the whole talk where they would separate the boys from the girls and the girls would get their talk. I still want to know what you guys were told. But I have good suspicions of what you guys were told. But women got their super secret meeting and they were told some super secret things. And from what I understand, they had to do a blood death oath that they couldn't reveal to any boy at the time or ever even maybe of what they were actually told. I just have that image in my head. But I do know what the boys were told. And of course, it wasn't very graphic. It was very, in my opinion, kind of like silly. And at that age, it's really hard to even, understand what is going on. But it certainly wasn't explicit like some things I've been seeing now. And so I even asked the guy, should 10-year-olds be exposed to explicit graphic things. And he said, well, I don't find that to be explicit, even though it was a cartoon. It's cartoon drawings rather than, actual, photographs of people having sex. And I said, okay, so, and I'll be bringing this up on Sunday. So I'm like, okay, so if you take these graphic images of cartoons of people having sex and you handed them out on a playground, would that be appropriate? He hasn't answered that yet. So, because I completely feel that would be inappropriate. So April says, what do you think a woman's locker room looks like? I don't really know that much. I don't really been in one, but I assure you the showers or stalls are in every one I've ever seen in changing rooms. There are stalls in some, but there are open. I have seen open showers. I've been in them. I mean, in the military, they're open showers. You don't have stalls. You shower with everybody else. Now, again, there's no women in the birthing there, right? You have separate birthing for women, but the showers are all open. I've seen similar locker rooms that have open showers and no stalls. Yeah. Now, even then, that might have changed a little bit, but I'm talking about open showers. And even then, though, even with stalls, there still seems to be a problem because, women are uncomfortable with it. And I understand that they're uncomfortable with it. You still, women still exit their stall naked sometimes. They don't particularly always put on a towel right away. I mean, that's just, come on. Blisskiss says, I've been called transphobic and bigoted so many times in the past month, it's losing its meaning at this point. Oh, it's long lost its meaning. When somebody calls me a transphobic or bigot, I just say, you know what, you're not really of interest to have a conversation with. Thanks a lot, but I'm moving on. They have nothing of value to actually add to the conversation. They've recused themselves from the dialogue. Don't take anybody serious who's going to use hyperbolic language merely to shut down valid criticism. They will never add anything to the conversation. I've never once had a situation where somebody started using those hyperbolic terms, ever come back and say of anything of interest. I can't remember any at any time. Bliss Chris says, I would love to call on Sunday. Unfortunately, got a double work. I'm sorry. Do me a favor, but leave a comment on the video afterwards, Bliss. Could you do that? Your psyche is, so he says your psyche is part of your biology to some extent. Yeah, I mean, it's the mental form. It's the mental process that comes from the physical. Autistic says, I don't agree, but as long as we can all agree, we leave kids out of it. I'm sure you can. I'm sure you saw about the couple harassing 9-year-olds. I refresh my memory, maybe. But yeah, again, I think the Pride community had certain members that went too far by involving kids. And I think the whole medically necessitated things that they were trying to say are medically necessary for kids are not, in my opinion, have been determined to be medically necessary. And I think Billboard Chris, if you guys follow him, has made some really, really brilliant arguments as to why are we having children have these irreversible operations when they don't even know what they're even doing themselves? They're a lot of times they just want to please their parents. When you have a child that's 4 or 5, 6 years old, they're not going to have any clue about their sexuality. People can argue, I knew I was gay since birth. Okay, that's fine. And maybe there are a handful of people that knew at 4, 5, and 6. Okay, I'll grant that. But to permanently change your body based upon that belief is to me seems mind blowing. If you're gay at 5 or 6 and you think they're going to be attracted to the same sex and you grew up your whole life gay, that doesn't change anything about you physically. But when you start taking hormones and you start taking chemicals to chemically castrate yourself, to have puberty blockers to prolong puberty, that does create permanent, long-lasting, and most of the time irreversible damage to a child. And so if they didn't start pushing all this stuff to have children go under these medical procedures and have radical double mastectomies and genitalia being operated on to be more gender confirming, they probably wouldn't have the backlash they are having. I think that is what the big thing was that kind of changed the direction of the conversation. And yes, I do think that the alt-right latched onto that. I think the alt-right were waiting for something like that where they're going to sink their teeth into and use as a bludgeon to do what's called the fallacy of composition. That they're going to take the things that might apply to a handful of small radical members of the Pride community and apply it to the whole, which is dishonest, sure. And I don't delude myself and don't think for a second that the alt-right doesn't have, some major agenda. Of course they do. And a lot of it is based upon religiosity and Christians, Christian belief, which I do not follow. So when you have the alt-right out there trying to condemn the Pride community, they usually are trying to do it from some kind of religiosity or some kind of perspective that they think that their God doesn't like gays or something. I absolutely believe that the alt-right and the right tend to do that. It just seems to be facts and evidence. And somebody who is a non-believer, of course, I stand against that. Let's see what else here. Willie Mays fan, I'm curious to hear your opinion, Steve, about how Christians have been or asked to stop preaching versus folks that are LGBT pushing their agendas. Well, let me ask you, Willie Mays, because I don't think any Christian should be told to stop preaching. If you're in a public forum, you can do whatever you want. But I also think that opens the doors in certain things, like, for example, state capitals buildings have recently given ability for Christians to come in and do benedictions and to do prayers and to do hymnals and sing and all this other stuff, which, okay, they're allowed to do that. But that also opens the door for the Satanic Temple and to come in and have the group Satanic Planet come in and play their satanic music. I'm not a big fan of that group. I like satanic music, but that's not the kind of music I listen to that they happen to play. However, I appreciate the concept. I appreciate that they're trying to make a statement. But I don't think that anybody in a public forum should be told what they can and cannot talk about if it's something that's not inciting violence. If it's their belief and you want to, say, hey, Allah is God in a public forum, I will not stifle your freedom of speech. That is freedom of religion, freedom of exercising of your right to publicly express yourself. Nothing wrong with that. But then again, you cannot stop other people from doing the same when they say, hey, look, I think your God is evil or maniacal, or, we're going to have satanic music playing in the Capitol building. You have to allow all or nothing. It is all or nothing. So no, I don't think that Christians should be stifled or asked to stop preaching. However, again, we're talking about public forum. But if it's a private forum or on private property, that's a completely different story. I don't want to be shopping somewhere at some grocery store and have people come up and proselyte to me and not leave me alone. They're on private property at that point. They are harassing the customers at that point. You cannot do that. Where I'm at, if people are passing out literature, it has to be done 20 feet from the building. You're not allowed to come into the store and start proselytizing and handing out literature. Why? Because people don't shop for that. That's not their reason for coming to go shop at a particular location. Right? So as a customer myself that goes shopping and I walk into a TJ Maxx or something and I want to go buy a pair of pants, I want to make sure that, I'm not going to be accosted by many people, running over to me trying to convince me that their position's right and mine's wrong. I think that makes sense, doesn't it? April says, in all the women's locker rooms you've been in. Well, no, but I've seen pictures. I've seen pictures. Chemo says, my mother was a janitor at my high school and she's always swore she'd rather clean 10 boys' lockers than one used by girls. See, I anecdotal, but maybe. I mean, I could tell you right now that boys can be pretty nasty as well. I mean, even aboard ship, we had some guys that did some messed up things. I mean, we had dudes that poop in showers, man. I am not even BSing you, man. It is just weird what some people do. So, and this is the military. So, Siggy for 666 says, I'm very much looking forward to the Sunday stream. Me too. And I really do hope you can join. Who's going to be in it right now is just me and Atlas. And if you can make it, that's great. Do you have a panel? That's what I'm doing right now, is trying to let people know I'm having a panel and to join. And if you want to join, please message me somehow by 5 o'clock Pacific time on Sunday. Are you inviting any trans women or women? Hail Sagan. I'll invite anybody who wants to join. I don't have anybody exclusive or anybody that I'm specifically inviting, except for obviously here. I'm inviting you, Siggy. But if you know a trans woman or man that wants to join, absolutely. It's an open panel, okay? But I don't have anybody in mind right now for me to go, hunt down. And try to get hunt down and try to get for the panel. Let me finish that discussion there. To hunt down to try to get to the panelist, that knows no violence there. Um, Bliss Chris says, "Oh, Steve, I've been listening live. Probably, but most definitely will leave a comment. Absolutely. Appreciate it, man. What do they say, Brit? Appreciate it, Bliss. What a tongue twister. April says, who's getting gender affirming surgery at 6? Well, they are taking hormones very early. I don't know necessarily about 6, but there are preteens that have expressed interest in getting puberty blockers, and there are teens that do get double radical mastectomies. I mean, just recently, wasn't it Milo? She just got a double mastectomy. If Elliot Page wants to get a double mastectomy, he's more than welcome to. But, and even Milo's of age too. But yes, you do have children that are 15, 16 that they are pushing for double mastectomies because they wanted to have gender affirming care. That does happen. Willie Mess says kids can't even choose their bedtimes. Yeah. Well, again, children, we went decades without having this major push for gender affirming care. Children still grew up. Most children grew up and just many of them were gay or bi, but not all of them grew up and said, yeah, I think I'm a woman. And so they are not even set it themselves what their orientation or gender affiliation is. It's still in flux. Their minds have not solidified yet. That's not until about age 25 where you lose a lot of that mental and physical plasticity of the brain. Autistic says, a couple stopped on a track and field event demand. Oh, I did hear about this. Yeah, I did. A couple stopped on a track and field event, demanded to have a minor investigated for gender verification, and parents produced a birth certificate. That family are lesbian and did this to another one. I did hear about that, and I find that to be very, very disgusting. And let me tell you why, Autistic Show. It is not up to the parents to sit there and question the gender or sexuality of a child, especially in public. It's just not. If you feel there's some unfair competition, if you feel maybe that there's a child that has some kind of unfair advantage, you can bring it to the system without the child's knowledge, not make a scene at the event. So I think that those people were definitely way out of line. I would have told them to piss off as a parent. Yeah, both girls have short hair and they look kind of, I guess, we consider to be butch or something, to be kind of masculine. But again, parents have no obligation to provide that information to another parent. To the school system, sure, maybe. A lot of things that are factored into that. For medical reasons, you really should probably know the biological sex of a child that's enrolled in the school. But that's private, personalized information that is not to be made public to anybody else that is not a parent. So yes, I think those parents were absolutely wrong on that. Autistic. Let me know if you agree or not. It says, if you speak at a public forum, you're opening yourself up to public criticism. Abso-freaking-lutely. Oh, I just noticed my chat box wasn't on. There we go. My chat box. Yay. Now I got my chat box. I was wondering why I wasn't seeing something. I thought something was odd. I couldn't figure out what it was. That's what it was. My chat box wasn't on the video. I just like the chat box on there. But yeah, you're absolutely right. Absolutely. Owls on birds. And by the way, this is the person who I'll be discussing this with on Sunday. His name is Atlas. He's a YouTube philosopher. And I really do like the fact that he was able to carry on a dialogue. I do. And the fact that he wanted to join, I appreciate. I really, really do. I mean that very sincerely, man. We disagree, but we're gonna hash this out on Sunday. But I'm trying to get panelists to have all sides to kind of give us some guidance on it. But I definitely think that if you speak in a public forum, you absolutely open yourself up to criticism. This is what happened with Dave Farina, Professor Dave, when he had that debate with Professor James Tour. Dave opened himself up to criticism. But what happened was when he got the criticism, he had so much mental anguish because of his ego, he lost his freaking mind. He's just out there attacking everybody nowadays. He's out there just yelling at anybody who dares disagree with him. I mean, he's having a full-on mental breakdown because his ego is so fragile. And he was going around telling people, oh, I refuted Steve, therefore he hates me. I don't hate Dave. I don't even know Dave. I have no hate, whatever to Dave. I find him to be one of the world's worst debaters I've ever seen. And as somebody who's seen a lot of debates and been in debates, I think I'm in a decent situation to be able to criticize him fairly, which I did. We did a very fair analysis on the debate on the Non Sequitur show. And many people agreed with me. I mean, the people that agree with Dave seem to be his sycophants that didn't even watch the same debate that I watched, because Dave never debated the debate topic. He only insulted James Tour. And I certainly do not agree with James Tour. I'm not a creationist. I'm a non-believer. But Dave thinks that anybody who dare criticize him must automatically side with creationists. That's the black and white fallacy thinking that he has, even though he has talked about fallacies. He has talked about philosophy on his channel, yet seems to be ignorant of it. You know, so yeah, I absolutely agree with you, man. If you speak in a public forum such as this I'm doing now, I know I open myself up for criticism. Happens all the time. Same thing on Twitter. I expect it. You know, I really do. I'd be shocked if I didn't get criticism, because not everybody agrees with me. I know it's crazy, but not everybody does. Siggy for another 666 says, if the concern is regarding transition as preteens are a lot of protocols in place, shouldn't it be ready to talk about that? Well, yes. Yeah, and that's what we'll be talking about. And again, you know, Billboard Chris argues that anybody under 18 should never have these surgeries. Never, under any circumstances. I asked him directly, are there exceptions? He said no. I don't agree with that. I don't think that anything has absolutely no outliers or any exceptions when it comes to certain things like this. I'm not a medical doctor. I'm not a psychologist. But even the medical doctors probably may not always agree with the same treatment plan as a psychologist would. And I do think that a lot of these people probably need more psychological help than they do medical help. You know, these are all elective surgeries. They have to do with changing somebody's mental state or helping their mental state. It doesn't have anything to do with a medicine that is medically necessary for the survival of that person. And so, yes, I do think we should talk about that, Siggy. Absolutely. And it's not just even of preteens. It's even of adults. That are the adults being fully aware of what they're getting themselves into when they have these types of gender affirming surgeries. But thank you, Siggy. Kimomaki says, is gender affirming the same or is gender confirming? I think so. I think so. If there's a difference, I'm not aware of it, Chemo. Siggy says, all that is true, but the part of the protocol includes the psychological counseling for the kid and the parents. That's true, but it's not infallible. And we also know from history that psychological counseling has had some detrimental effects. I mean, just recently, Erin had a very, very, very good video on her channel, EK People Suck. Yes, I'm giving her props. I do watch her stuff. I know, don't tell her. It's going to go to her ego. But I watch her stuff. And she had a really good video on the effect of the Satanic Panic's repressed memories back in the 80s, if you guys remember that, because I certainly do. And I was against the Satanic Panic, and I thought they were all nuts. And I thought the whole repressed memories things was BS. And I was like, they're not people that are having these satanic rituals in the basement, feasting on the flesh of unborn children kind of thing. It's just, there's no evidence that's ever happened. And it's certainly not prevalent. There's not a bunch of Satanists who want to go out and take your children, right? That was all a lie. That was all myth. That has been all debunked time and time again. And of course, Erin had been talking about that because one of her favorite dishonest YouTubers, Katie Joy, says that her therapist says that she has repressed memories of a child, blah, 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 which we know repressed memories are almost always faulty memories that have been planted by the psychological counselor. So when you have a psychological counselor treating a child, they might just want to do what the counselor and the parents want them to do. Again, we don't have any long-term studies on this. It is relatively new where we've even had these procedures to be able to do certain things, to have, neoplastic, neovaginas and the male parts turning into female parts and things of that nature. These are pretty newer techniques as far as the last couple decades. They weren't around, 50 years ago. And we don't know the long-term effects. And in still most cases, there are hormones and puberty blockers before surgery. Yes, but puberty blockers tend to castrate people. They tend to be sterilizations to kids. Puberty blockers are basically the side effect of non-approved FDA. I think they were for cancer treatment. I think it was prostate cancer, if I'm not mistaken, as the main drug was used to treat prostate cancer. And one of the side effects, or off-label, that the federal FDA has not really approved it for was it happens to actually block puberty. But again, puberty isn't something that can be just postponed and taken up again 20 years later. It doesn't work that way. So when you do have puberty blockers, it is irreversible for some part. And so when these children decide to take puberty blockers, they can lead to actual sterilization. And I don't know if a child is going to be understanding that concept that they may be sterilized because they have prolonged puberty. Let's see here. So he says it's not like the people getting mastectomies like nose jobs. Isn't it though? Very similar. Nose job. Think about this, Siggy. Nose job is an elective surgery, and they get a nose job because they feel like their nose is not complementing their face properly. And I'm not talking about medical procedures where you've had damage to the nose, not where you've had some kind of accident. I'm talking about where it's just elective surgery. The nose isn't what they feel should suit their face. Isn't that what they're doing with the double mastectomy? They believe that their body that they were born into isn't fitting their idea of what gender should be, which I think a lot of it is being told to them, and they're being told it doesn't conform. And I think that a lot of it comes from adults that are giving children information that the child is taking to heart, thinking that this is what the parents and the adults want. Let's see here. What else we got here? Optics Excel says, I don't think they should make that decision until they are age. I agree with you. I'm very pro-trans, but kids are kids and they are still learning. I wouldn't put my kids in surgery if not medically necessary. 100%. That's what I agree with. But of course, we are told we're bad people for having that view. And instead of trying to change our view on that, which may or may not be the case, people are just throwing out words like bigot and transphobe. And that doesn't do anything to change the opinion of anybody. It just shuts down dialogue. It's meant to shut down dialogue. It's meant to discourage people from talking about these topics rather than saying, hey, look, as a parent, I don't think it's appropriate for my child to be subjected to this. I don't want it in the school system. You know, I'm all for a school system talking about, hey, there are different orientations. There are different things like mommies, two daddies. That's all fine. You know, like just recently, this judge went off on the parent for criticizing a book that said, you know, somewhere in there that, you know, the kid had two mommies. Yeah, at that point, you know, that's just stupid that somebody's criticizing that, right? That just is that to me, of course, is dumb. That's what the Pride community used to fight against. Idiots like that going, oh my God, you have this Karen that is so upset that a pastor's talked about a student having two mommies. Yeah, well, that's just their problem. The Karen is an idiot. Okay, they need to get over it. And everybody in the Pride group used to all, you know, applaud that and agree with it and go, yes, these people are stupid, because they were. But it's no longer just talking about whether somebody has two mommies or two daddies. It's talking about graphic sexual positions to people. I should say to kids that are underage. And again, I don't think it's appropriate. So, let's see here. I need to blow this up. It's really hard to read here. Let me pop out my chat and make this larger here. Oh, so much better. Okay. Outside the Cube says, I don't think it's hard. I think it's the threat of cancellation and being called names that make it hard. And maybe, but again, people have been canceled by speaking out. People have been canceled by not conforming to the hive mind, whether it be the groupthink of some of the more radical versions of Pride or atheist community or creationism or flat earth. It doesn't matter. People don't want to feel like their voice is falling on deaf ears if their arguments are made in earnest. If they're honest opinions, then they should be taken seriously, at least listened to. But they have to be honest opinions based upon some kind of reasonable argument. Saying that, hey, I don't think we should have a book because it says that Joshua has two mommies. That's not a reasonable argument. I don't know any reasonable argument why that would be something where anybody could say that book should not be in school. That's just silly. But if you say this book shouldn't be in school because it has graphic depictions, even in cartoon form, of sexual positions, then yeah, I might have a little more problem with that. with, or at least I might be able to, I should say I might be more supportive of that, right? Is that Nikki? Nikki, how are you, Nikki? Let's see here. Outside says, what are your thoughts on What Is a Woman doc? I hate to say this, but I haven't watched it yet. I have it downloaded. I really do. I have it downloaded because it was like 24 hours on Twitter. It was free, and so I didn't know if I was going to get to it in time, so I did download it. And I do plan to watch it, but I haven't yet. So when I do watch it, do you guys want me to do a critique on What Is a Woman from Matt Walsh and whatever his organization is? Because then again, you know, I may agree one or two things that Matt Walsh says, but I certainly don't like the guy. I think he's off on many things, and he definitely comes from a very religious perspective. Do I think he is dishonest? Yeah, because I think he's promoting against the Pride community because he's doing it for religiosity. He's doing it for religious reasons, I think, not just, you know, for the arguments that I have. Sure, they might be similar in nature, but I think the reasoning for the argument might differ exceptionally. So two people might believe the same thing, but they have very, very different justifications for it. And I do think justifications of why you have a position are important. If I say, hey, I believe you shouldn't play in the street because you might get hit by a bus, and my justification is it can kill you, that's a pretty good justification not to play in the street. But if somebody says, I don't think we should play in the street because streets are, let me think of a dumb reason, because streets are made for bicycles and you should just be riding a bicycle and not playing in the street. That's a dumb reason, right? Even though both of us agree we shouldn't play in the street, because you want the bicycle to be there, that's your justification? No, my justification is reasonable because I don't want you to get hit by a bus. Let's see what else here. Siggy says, for 666 again, cosmetic surgery is part of transition. However, the reasons are not the same. It is the classic trope of transphobes. I'm not saying you are one, but this is why we have issues sometimes. But again, look at the core thing, Siggy. How is the reasons not the same, or at least similar? They're not. Let's look what they're not. These are not medically necessary, as far as if will the person continue if you don't get the surgery, or will something fail in their body? You know, no. If you need a heart replacement, you don't get one, you're going to die. So that's medically necessary. But something that's not medically necessary, which is completely such that if you don't get it, your body's not going to give out on you, right? Then it's considered to be elective surgery or cosmetic surgery in this case, because you're doing something to alter the state of the skin, which is plastic surgery. A nose job is cosmetic surgery, but also a double mastectomy is cosmetic surgery. Breast reductions are cosmetic surgery. Breast augmentations are cosmetic surgery. And the reasons are very, very similar. The person is uncomfortable mentally. There's some distress there about something about their body. So the reasons are very similar, I would argue. And I know we'll be doing this on Sunday as well. So let's see here. Also says, I don't care how my kids dress and they want to have a new name or identity. I wouldn't care either. It's surgery that I don't think is right, and medications that are somehow, I don't know. I'm in the same position. If if your child wants to dress differently and act differently, and be gender nonconforming, great. Okay, fine. I don't really have an issue. But the problem is I see parents trying to push their kids in that direction. You know, they're part of the LGBT, DP plus, LG, whatever, the Pride community. And so they want their kids to be. And if you have two parents that are in the Pride community, they say they're both gay or both straight, and they're pushing their child to be nonconforming just because they want them to be nonconforming, that to me is something that we should talk about and ask, is this proper parenting? Is this for the benefit of the child or for the parents? It says, I have both the book and the audible book of the Vagina Bible from Jennifer Gundy. Yeah. Matt Walsh did get one thing right in that video. What was that? Again, I haven't watched it yet, but I do plan on it. Siggy for 666 says, and dysphoria and dysmorphia are different things. It's not enough to say that they're similar. Well, well, dysphoria is a feeling, the mental anguish of something, right? Dysmorphia is where you feel your body, something is wrong with it. If I believe that I shouldn't have this particular body part, that's dysmorphia. If I look at my body and say, hey, look, I picture myself a lot more larger and fatter and robust and than I am, that could be body dysphoria or body dysmorphia, right? So dysphoria is basically relating to a mental condition, I think, and dysmorphia relating to specifically to where your body is not your physical state of your body and your mental state are not necessarily the same thing. You're seeing your body differently from somebody else. This is what happened when happens when you see people have anorexia. They maybe not necessarily see themselves as being very gaunt and frail and emaciated. They may see themselves still as fat. That's body dysmorphia. Siggy, ARS 225. But Steve, where are those parents pushing their kids to transition? They're out there. I mean, again, we could bring a bunch of stuff to the table and just show story after story, but I think there's enough out there to at least say, look, these things do happen. I mean, if you don't think they're happening, sure, we can find evidence of it because it's all out there. I mean, you read the same things I read. We know that there are parents that do push their kids to transition. I just saw a tweet the other day that had to do with a guy where he had a 4-year-old son that now has a 4-year-old daughter. That just was just the other day. And don't you think that parent has something to do with it? It cannot be just all a child for 4 years old to know what they're gender confirming to. I mean, if the child wants to, that's fine. But yes, I do think parents push harder in one way or the other. I really do. You might have parents that say, "Hey, you're a boy. I don't want you to wear a dress." They're pushing them away from it. Or you might have somebody in the pride community say, "Hey, you're a boy. I want you to wear a dress." They're pushing the other way. I'm a centrist. I'm like, let the child decide. And if the child wants to wear a dress, I don't have an issue with that. I couldn't care less. I just don't. But now some people can argue, well, the kid might be ridiculed and things of that nature. And I agree that that's a problem. And I don't think they should be ridiculed. Kids are evil. Kids can be very brutal to each other, But that's a choice that the kid has to make. And if it's just something that's not life-changing to the point where you're altering your body that's non-reversible, like wearing a dress, I couldn't care less. Now, if the child says, I'm 5 years old and I want to get a tattoo on me of, of a cigarette and whiskey, then yeah, you might have a bigger problem, right? A child cannot make that decision because that's a permanent alteration of their body. Why are we talking about crab legs? I want crab legs. Oh my God, that sounds amazing. Dude, now I want crab legs. I want seafood. Holy crap. Now I'm hungry. I've only had 2 pieces of chicken today. I've been trying to cut down my caloric intake for the last couple of weeks. I've dropped 4 pounds already. Yay! So I did go back on kind of a moderate, what's the word? What kind of diet? It's not a full-on diet, but a moderate diet, I guess you can say. A modified diet. That's the word I'm looking for. A modified diet. And so, yeah, I was up to like 206 last month. 206. And I just weighed myself a couple times because I want to get an average. And so now I'm back down to about 202, 203 at the most. So, yeah, so lost 3 or 4 pounds in the last couple of weeks. So I know it is working. Thank you very much. Not as hard as it was going from I was like 116, 119 or whatever I was, and I went all the way down 220 pounds. That was pretty good. All right, let's see here. Siggy, you're on a super chat roll tonight. Dang, boy. I appreciate it. He says for $5, I blew all my budget on super chats. Hail Sagan, see y'all Sunday. You know what? That's perfectly fine, man. I really do appreciate you super chatting and become a member and all that stuff. I really, really do. And everybody knows that nobody absolutely has to by any means. I do appreciate every single person that does, and I do read out every single super chat. But I do think that you have a differing viewpoint and you're able to articulate it, and you do so for the most part without trying to invoke any kind of hyperbolic language. And I think that's the goal. I think that's the goal on Sunday. When I have this video on Sunday on Non Sequitur Show on the philosophy of Pride Month, it really is centered to me about how do we go about having conversations about these topics that avoid these visceral reactions. I think that's extremely important. And of course, we'll have Atlas on to give his side and see if he can convince me of whatever he's trying to convince me of, and we'll go from there. But we'll have a panel. But I'm very clear in my positions, and this is what bothers me. And I'm not saying Atlas does this, but I'm saying that other people have done this. Is that they try to attribute positions to me that I don't have. I just because I agree or disagree on one or two things doesn't mean I happen to like agree with the far left or far right, or even the right or the left. I just like all of them, to be honest with you. I think the left is radicalized and progressive, and I think they're and woke, and I think the right is radicalized and repressive and bunch of funny pieces of shit for the most part. I just don't like either of them. I'm not a Republican and I'm a Democrat. So people need to get my positions right, because when they start labeling you things like, oh, you're just a far leftist. No, I'm not. If I was, I would tell you. Let me tell you my positions. Don't tell me what my positions are, because then we can't have an honest conversation. And so when people say, oh, well, you hate this and that. No, I don't. If I hate something, I'll tell you. Like the Dave Farina dude, Professor Dave. Steve hates me now. No, if I hated him, I would tell him. He's a non-factor to me. I have no emotions toward the guy whatsoever. I think he's just a lousy debater, but I certainly don't hate him. He's never done anything to me to hate him. Hate's a very strong word. You got to do a lot for me to say I hate you. And there are a few people that I clearly hate. Katie Joy Polson, I hate with every fiber of my freaking being. And I hope her face rots out for the staph infection she's got. I couldn't care less. She's her own living portrait of Dorian Gray. She's the evil that's metastasized on YouTube. And so, yes, I do not care what happens to her from natural causes. I just don't care. I hate the woman. I literally hate her. However, I wouldn't want anybody to do anything, illegal, or I wouldn't want something harmful that's non-natural to happen to her. If something happened to her family, that I wouldn't want that even to happen to my worst enemy. Her child does not deserve to suffer the consequences of the actions of a mother. So yeah, I definitely don't care that whatever's happening to Katie Joy's face, I don't care. What is going on again? I'm hearing this again. Chemo X says you're a hell of a generous person. So yep, he is. It really is. I appreciate it. And he was helping out AT2 Productions too. So yes, he does support the communities. Really appreciate that. Gifted 5 more memberships. Oh, that's what it is. So what do we got here? Bliss Chris is now a member. Siggy is now a member. Hitomi is now a member. Cricket is a member. I don't know some of these people. Trisha, if you're not a member, if you're a member now, especially, let me know who you are. Say hi, because I don't recognize some of your names. Let me know. Let me know your thoughts. Leave some messages. Leave some comments. But thank you, Siggy. And Siggy says, support Steve any way you can. His voice is needed. And I appreciate that. Look, and here's the thing. Even if Siggy and I don't agree, I am fine with being a soundboard for him to use to say, hey, Steve says this and I don't agree with him. Let me explain to you why. Maybe he might convince me. Maybe he might convince somebody else. I don't know. But as whoever was earlier pointed out, I think it was Atlas, Owls Are Not Birds, who said, if you talk on a public forum, you should be open to criticism. Absolutely. And if I can say something on my channel or another channel and Siggy, you use it to argue something cogently, I am all for that. I would love that. It doesn't even, like I said, have to be something I agree with, but the fact that he can use what I say to do a reasonable, rational argument, why would I not be for that? That's what I want for everybody. Doesn't mean you have to come to the same conclusion, but I just want the arguments to be reasonable. I don't want to have people have any bad arguments. And this is what I'm seeing time and time again when we talk about these subjects of people coming on Twitter having bad arguments, using hyperbolic language that doesn't change anything about the fundamental nature of the issues being levied about a particular group or person. Autistics, have you heard about Mavon? I have. I do know that Mavon McRae passed away. My heart goes out to the family. to Dre, to Letitia, to everybody involved with it. Uh, I really do think he unofficially passed away a long time ago, but officially he passed away, and I hope he's at rest. It is a sad situation. I think, again, I'll stand by what I said before. I think a lot of people profited off that tragedy, whether it be, a good profit or a bad profit. Some people did it, fine. I once said that, even Aaron might have minorly exploited things, but I didn't mean it negatively or pejoratively. It just meant that, that there was profitability to be had of some of these stories. I understand that. And there's nothing wrong with talking about a subject, making people aware of it because you want to make people aware of it, and to bring eyes on something because you care about it, because you're passionate. And if you make money doing that, I have no issue with that. I don't care. That's a healthy form of exploitation. I don't care. But what I got upset with were people using the Marvon story who had nothing to do with the story, dishonestly lying about the situation, dishonestly trying to go after Miss Letitia Bias, trying to say that she was a fraudster and the GoFundMe's were fraudulent. Those people were evil. The people like Nonsense were evil. The people like Unirock were evil for doing what they did. I mean, there's no other words to describe it. It's just evil. They're evil people. And so, I again, my heart goes out to the family with Marvon. I'm glad that they have some peace of mind now, that maybe they can move on. And of course, that is not to ever say that the loss of a child is something you can move on upon, from. And I know some dishonest people will take me the wrong way on that, but I certainly means it might be giving them some closure where they can start to do probably what Marvon wanted them to do, is to live the rest of their lives. Man, that's some sad stuff though, man. That stuff really does affect me. So if you hear a change in my voice when I start talking about things like that, it really is because those types of stories move me, and I don't like to discuss those types of stories. That is why I don't discuss those types of stories on my channel. I don't have the wherewithal emotionally. And people say, think that I'm like so emotionally devoid. I'm not when it comes to these things. I'm just the opposite. I hide my emotions very well when it comes to things that I'm sensitive to. But when it comes to these types of tragedies, I do feel very strongly for the family, especially as Marvon was a vet. And so I don't like talking about those types of things because it reminds me of personal stuff and my loss in my own life. And so I leave that for other people. I'd say he says, the truth is I love to argue. That's true too. I believe that. How I can never learn something new or test my opinions or ideas of good if we never test them. So thanks for that. 100%. 100%. If anybody ever gets anything out of my channel or gets anything out of these discussions, take away what Siggy just said. If you don't argue your position, you can never know whether your ideas are good or bad. If you don't test your propositions, you can never know what your beliefs are true or false, or if they're good or bad. There's nothing wrong with arguing positions if you believe them and then change your mind once given better information. There are times, however, where people will die on a hill where they shouldn't die on, where they believe something that is so radically wrong that we see all the time. I think Dave Vereen is dying on a hill because all the papers that he cited didn't address Tor's objections, and we know that. I think that's a hill that he's dying on. Or people that want to argue the earth is flat, that's a hill that die on because we know it's not flat. But if I have a specific position about something when it comes to political stuff or what should happen in a situation, then yes, I want pushback and to test that. We make decisions all the time in life, especially anybody who works. Any of us who have full-time jobs, we have to make decisions. I had to make a decision the other day. I even stayed a little bit late to make this decision about, how to go about handling somebody who was stealing. I had to make a decision because the senior LP person, I guess. But there's a new person there, LP, and she just started. But I wanted her to watch how to handle a certain situation dealing with somebody who was stealing. And so I stayed a little bit longer, made a decision. This is how we would go about doing it. Took it to the MOD at the time, and that's how we resolved it. That could have been handled differently. It could have been a lot of different things, but I had to make a decision in my mind because I knew what was going on. How do I go about to addressing this, right? And of course, yeah, I think my decision was correct. It was a decision based upon the guidelines and best practices of the company. So my decision was in line with that 100%. There's other things it could have done that probably still would have been in line, maybe a little bit differently. But of course, there's many different ways to skin an apple, so to speak. I don't skin a cat, but I like cats, so I changed it to skin an apple. Sorry. But anyways, that gives you, the point about Siggy's statement here is that, yeah, you should test your opinions, test your arguments. Owls on Birds, $5 says, I can promise I'll keep the discussion to the discussion. Cool. Inquisitive and open minds are meant to be changed, not judged and vilified. Sure, if you have something to actually change them. I believe in virtuous epistemology, which is open-mindedness is a virtue, and I do tend to Aristotelian virtue ethics. And I'm happy to have my mind changed. That doesn't bother me. It really doesn't. I've had my mind changed before. I'll have my mind changed again. But I don't want the conversation shut down. And I don't think, obviously, you were doing that. I was being very sincere in my questions, in my interrogatories. Being very, very sincere. But I understand it's Twitter. And on Twitter, things can go south very quickly. Siggy and I we've had that happen on Twitter. Went south really quickly. But of course, we moved past that and realized, okay, maybe we are talking past each other. And I can say we probably became friends, at least online friends, and I respect the guy. And so to have these kind of conversations, sure, Twitter is not the best platform. This is put that out there. Twitter is definitely not the best platform. And I think you recognize that because you were saying, oh, okay, let's talk about it on air, on his channel. And I'm like, okay, sure. And that's why I was like, let's set it up on Sunday. And of course, I just wanted to have this discussion tonight to get panelists, because I want all sides. And I do think these discussions should be more open. I do appreciate that, Alzheimer's. By the way, what was I know I put you as YouTube philosopher. Can I ask what your YouTube channel? I don't have it. I couldn't find it. And so maybe that's me. But I'll look again. But can you give it to me on Twitter DM, and I'll put it in the video description for the show. And also, what is your thing of philosophy? I know you know me because, you've talked about me, and I think you even said you respected me, which I appreciate. But I'm not sure that I'm aware of you. So I don't mean that to be negative. I'm not sure if I've watched you before, but I want to know what your interest in philosophy is. Yeah, Nikki says he passed away on the 7th. Dre never told his parents. I heard that something along those as well. I'm not a fan of Dre from what I understand, just from what I've heard about her. I never talked to her. I've never listened to her. But just the anecdotal evidence I seem to have heard in the street is that Dre seems very, very manipulative and very, very egocentric. And she seemed to make a lot of this about her. So I can see her actually withholding that kind of information. Yeah. Which is mind blowing. How you can hold that from a parent. That's just sick. Ellie says, has there been any confirmation about Mavon? Dre hasn't said anything. I don't think it initially has been 100% confirmed from what I understand, but I think it's generally accepted that he passed away. I know Veda had Molly Golightly on her channel just recently to talk about that. I'm just going to assume that he has. I have no reason to doubt that. But I don't know if there's confirmation either way on that, Ellie. Hi, Curious Idea. Welcome. And by the way, welcome, Ellie. Al says, yeah, Twitter can be garbage fire. Oh, yes, we're soaking the Non Sequitur show, obviously. I don't expect this Sunday to be a garbage. It's not going to be a dumpster fire. It might be a little contentious, but it depends on who we have on. But Curious Idea says, can I come up and talk at random? Sure you can. Absolutely. I'll tell you what I'll do. I will do this for you, Curious Idea. Anybody else who wants to come in to give a kind of a quick recap here, whatever. There you go. There's the link. Come on in. Let's see what else here. Ellie, you can pop in too. There's something I want to ask you too, and I can't remember what it was, Ellie. And I know it had to do with the Doom situation. Kim Maki says, I keep changing my mind until I get one that works properly. Exactly. Just keep switching it out. Kira says, I detached from YouTube. Yeah, I can see why. Let me read these real quick, then I'll get to you. Blah, blah, blah. Okay. All right. Hey, welcome. Curious idea. Woo! That's a greeting for you. Happy Friday. Yes, the YouTube drama. It's bad. It's it's so funny. Curious. I gotta tell you. I gotta tell you. I gotta be frank with you. I have not missed at all the fucking YouTube drama. I have not been promoted. I haven't. I haven't promoted my channels very much. I still have my shows. I still do this, and I still have a non sequitur show once a week. And I may still probably do more. Coming up, like during the summer, I usually tend to stream more. So I will probably be streaming more. But I mean, for the most part, though, I don't follow any of the stuff that's out there. I listen, but I don't get involved with it, right? So when I like, for example, like I heard like Roadhog Roadhog did this like recapitulation. Yeah, well, he did this like recapitulation of everything, and he didn't have anything to say about me because I haven't been around. And of course, personally, I have no issue with Roadhog. I don't follow him. We've had our past or whatever, but it's just whatever. And Miss Roadhog was on the panel the other day. She's allowed to be. But the thing is that even Roadhog had nothing really to talk about because I just have not involved myself with anything drama wise, and I've been enjoying it. Oh, that wasn't me. It wasn't me. I didn't do it. Come back. Where'd you go? But there are certain things like I think that even though maybe considered drama, I think maybe are worth weighing in on. Like the Doom thing. I weighed in on that. Yeah, Curious dropped out real quick. I didn't do anything. Oh, you can't hear. Okay, well, she didn't say anything yet, so Willie. So one sec. She actually dropped out, but I have her unmuted now. There we go. All right, yeah, wait a sec. All right, now you can. Now you go. Now. Woo!
Sorry, I've been drinking fucking vodka tonight, so I apologize.
That's okay, man. But, hey, we're gonna have a rum. We're gonna have a rum and coke night. We definitely need a rum and coke night one of these nights.
Yeah, no, Cuba Libres. And this lady, I asked her for Cape Cod tonight with some pineapple, and she was like, "What's a Cape Cod?" I was like, "Oh, it's generation."
What's
like it's vodka and cranberry, baby. With no lying.
What's an old fat?
I try not to speak too deep.
What's an old fashioned? Hey, what's up, Alice?
Alice, what's up, Steve?
Do you know what's an old fashioned?
Alice.
Atlas, do you know what goes in an old fashioned?
Oh, it's not Alice. It's Atlas. I'm so sorry.
Atlas, yeah. Do you know what goes in
Atlas?
Yes, I said Atlas. She said Alice. There's a YouTuber named Alice that's been going around that everybody has.
I heard Alice. Oh, I'm sorry, Atlas. Like she said worry. Alice, and I thought Alice. Now I know it's Atlas. I apologize.
So first,
that's no problem.
I don't even like old fashioned. So let me ask you.
Happy Friday drinking day.
So on Sunday, obviously, I mean, I try to get a panel. I don't want to get into discussion here, but basically, I do want to have a dialogue on the philosophy of Pride Month and the issues being raised, and I think that's what we're going to be doing.
You got to talk to me when I'm sober before 5:00 Pacific time. I will totally be down to do that.
I don't think I've ever seen you sober.
I have my thoughts on that.
Curious, have you ever been sober?
Well, it's usually because I'm. Yes, just not when
this year,
get online.
This
because
year.
If I'm getting on the fucking, if I get online, because I even had this talk today about like I don't need to be a YouTuber, right? Like that's what I told one of my coworkers today. I was like, "This is what I do for a living. I make videos, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like I don't give a fuck. I have 0 fucks to give, right?" But yeah, usually when I message you, if it's past sundown, I'm probably drinking.
Yeah.
And I apologize for that.
I have no more fucks to give. My fucks have all run dry.
0 fucks to give. Okay, so this week on YouTube news, right? I'm in my 40s. I told you this, right? But I literally saw 2 grannies in my 40s that are also in my 40s. They were fighting about who had the better ribeye. lipstick. And I was like, I'm out. I have no time. I have zero fucks to give about red lipstick, and the YouTube world
that's
like
pretty petty stuff.
I
think the bigger stuff.
It is petty stuff, man.
The bigger stuff is the stuff that Uni Rock and Katie Joy does to people. But real quick, so yes, whiskey, whiskey, sugar, and bitters. Yes, that's pretty much an old fashioned. Hi, Brandon.
Oh, I had the best old fashioned at a speakeasy thing in fucking Barcelona, dude. They made the best drinks ever. Oh, sorry, I'm shit faced right now.
No, really,
Hi.
really.
You're fun. You're fun. Keep rattling. I've been listening to you forever.
I just couldn't tell. No, you know what? Enjoy yourself. It's Friday freaking night. I don't care. I love it. But I do want to ask Atlas. So you're YouTube philosophy guy. How do you know me? What philosophy do you do? I'm just kind of curious because I don't recognize you.
Oh, okay. So me, I'm not like I don't subscribe to like an official philosophy as of currently. I've sort of pieced together my personal philosophy from a bunch of different stuff. Some objectivism. Some Platonist. I just
wait, and Rand objectivism.
A little bit of the so for like the axioms. I'm a big fan of the beginning axioms. Yeah, I read up on all this stuff, so this stuff is fascinating to me. So I just absorb what I read and see what's necessary and what's not.
Okay. Yeah, I'm not a big Anne fan. I read.
Have you guys ever took a philosophy class though?
Yes.
Like all of my thoughts is us business school kids. When we had to take a class with the philosophy kids, we were like, we're gonna fucking eat them for life and spit them out for breakfast.
Yeah, I'm
sorry, Atlas.
I took a formal. I took informal logic. Yeah.
I literally have zero fucks to give on philosophy. Yeah, you know what a philosophy degree gets you? Nothing in life.
Nothing, absolutely nothing. Well, it really is for like fun.
Actually, I'll tell you what. No, I'm telling you, if you're a bioethicist, you make bank. Every company has a bioethicist somewhere on their board.
Bioethicists.
Yes.
Well, we got TE&I and shit, and that's probably why I got hired at my shit, because it was like $0 to be a decent person on dick. That's my philosophy.
Here's the thing that I look at philosophy. Well, the subject itself may not be something that could be directly something that can help you. It's something that can be used in any other aspect of life, because every subject has a philosophy of it.
So
philosophy
Steve, I'm really going to
listen. Philosophy of science. Listen. Philosophy of religion, philosophy of science, philosophy of economics. Every subject has a philosophy that guides it. And if you know philosophy, it will help you in any other subject. I absolutely believe this.
Yeah. Well, I studied this shit. So the philosopher that always got me from the Greek moments. Have y'all ever heard of Diogenes?
Yes, of course. He was looking for
the cynic.
He was
fucking love him.
He's looking for an honest man.
That's basically my persona.
Siggy,
what did you feel about Rufus?
Real quick,
I didn't study Rufus. All I cared about was Diogenes in a fucking wine barrel. It was the most greatest thing ever. Siggy, and he walked around with a lit lantern. I was like, I'd probably be that motherfucker in the fucking Greek era.
Well, that's how he's depicted. He's an old man with a shawl with a lantern, you know?
I don't know, man, but his fucking cynical beliefs, I think that's what his cynic philosophy.
You should get into cynics. You should get into the academic and Peronian skeptics. Siggy for $5.
Oh yeah, I'd totally be that.
Siggy for $5 says, half of us are at least tipsy. I'm stoned as fuck, so no one's gonna judge you.
Siggy's gone over his budget now.
Nice. Yeah, he's gone over his budget. You're stoned. Siggy, stop. You're over your budget. Save it. Yeah, save it. You're over your budget.
People are asking me if I get stoned. I was like, no, I can't mix the alcohol and the fucking
I don't
weed,
like to get
man. Like that, I start cleaning shit and then I have to retrace my
I do
stuff.
not like to get crossfaded.
No, I don't like the mixture. It hurts me. And then I go, what the fuck did I do last night? Oh, I moved a fucking couch. That's what I did.
So, who else wants to join us on Sunday, Atlas? Do you know anybody? I mean, bring anybody you want. I don't.
I'm like, this is something new to me. So, like, me actually going and actually having these discussions, I find myself just doing this in my spare time with people.
Oh, cool.
And
that's awesome.
As someone who enjoys philosophy, you end up finding out that a lot of people eventually start realizing that they're like, I don't know what the fuck this guy's talking about. He's reading some ancient book.
But everything's philosophical, man.
Well, it is to a degree.
Well, Steve. Okay, so I was telling Steve Atlas is I'm sucked into the ancient architecture of India right now. Like Steve, I'm like literally
beautiful.
I've gotten some of my conclusions, man, this week. So I've been detaching from the YouTube fucking whatever, like people like going back and forth on their drama and old grannies my age. Like they're not really that old. They're also growing a gray strip like me, but I really haven't dyed my hair or whatever the fuck. But my thought process on this shit was there's ladies my age or a little bit older, maybe 5 years older, they're just fighting back and forth. They're grannies. It's like, oh, I could have been a granny. But my theory and philosophical shit that's going on right now is like, goddamn. Like, so Angkor Wat, the thing I learned this week, right? These are my theories and thoughts and learning process is Angkor Wat, the architects did not, they didn't learn from other architects. Like that technology, Angkor Wat was completely separate from everything else. And then they have these Buddhist statues that, like they said, the father built the fucking Angkor Wat and then the son did the fucking Buddha statues, but it doesn't make any sense. I think there was thousands of generations on that. That's my philosophical thing right now is holy shit. How the fuck did they build Angkor Wat? How the fuck did they build all these Indian, what they call temples? They're not temples. They are history documents.
Yeah, it's
right?
beautiful. I mean, legitimately, as someone who went into Hinduism for a good spell, like we have a monastery down here, which is a Sri Minakasi. It's gorgeous.
But how the fuck did they build this shit? Because I've been to Stonehenge, I've been to Malta.
Now, is all I can think of.
Yeah, they have the technology to build all that stuff. They're skilled. They're very skilled.
Yeah. Because when I went to Malta and I thought it was megalith, I thought it was fucking huge ass structures like Stonehenge, right? Like how they built the fucking Stonehenge. No, they're little fucking rocks. I thought mega blocks because that's what fucking ancient aliens showed me on the. They lied to me, okay? And so I'm sitting there, fucking Malta, going the blocks. I mean, like if you had 4 people, you could have moved those blocks, dude. Easily. But I still want to see Angkor Wat because that shit, when they show it on film, it's completely different than being in person. That's what I've discovered when I've been to these megalithic structures. If that makes sense. But I still want to know how they make the pyramids. And nobody's explained to me how there's no fucking elephant bones. Well, like, I think the elephant
pyramids have been explained for a while.
They explained them. They actually, hang on one sec. They actually had videos that actually showed there was I don't remember the guy's name, but he was a professor of archaeology in ancient Egypt, and he actually took students and went over to Egypt, and he actually did experiments with water showing exactly how they would make obelisks stand upright, how they would do the tablets. They know exactly.
So did they float it down the Nile or some shit?
No.
No.
Hi, Siggy.
Siggy, respect.
Yeah, respect. You all bundled up. Are you high? You look high. Look at his eyes. His eyes are faded, man.
Yeah, I am. Like ceremonial robe,
right? And it has the trees behind him that has some connotations and secret things of like weed, man.
I'm in a black robe.
I'm in a
right
different
now.
hemisphere, so it's kind of cold.
Yeah, I'm in a black robe.
It looks like
you're
in fucking Bungee Land back there. You got Halo going on.
It looks like Colorado or Montana,
man. It looks like he just got done doing a satanic ritual to try to, invoke Pazuzu or something.
Trying to summon the trans demons.
Those are the moons of Endor.
The Endor. What the fuck?
God.
That's a Star Wars reference.
This is the.
I know. I can't go back into those books again. I'll be lost forever. I read all 364 of those damn things.
Siggy, I don't.
I've never read those books, but I did read The Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy, like the universe and everything.
Oh, I've read The Hitchhiker's Guide.
42.
Siggy, did you
my age?
Did you say you were going to make it on Sunday or not?
What time is it?
5 Pacific.
That's. I think I can.
Yeah. Okay.
Be nice.
Yeah.
It's gonna be like 10 p.m. for me or something like that.
Yeah. Well, this is like I said. This is the panel pre-show. If we get Nikki on, that'd be great. Nikki, can you come on Sunday Or actually, you want to come on now too? Oh, who invited this guy? Oh my God, man, really?
Reds.
You can never have a good time without Red's fucking showing up.
Wait.
I appreciate you putting the logo up.
I have a question.
Yeah.
I have a question, Red's Rhetoric, and it's nice to meet you finally. I was back in the day following Dumb Fuck, and his name's Uni Rock, and I could not wrap my head around Steve or your shit. So hi, welcome. I have no idea why he kept shit talking.
The Dark Lord of Flat Earth debates just entered the lobby.
What an entry!
With a title like that, holy shit!
Right
there he is.
Sorry.
Hi, Reds.
No, I just saw your logo pop up, and I was like, dude, I don't know why Uni Rock had a heart on for you for all those years.
I've been purposefully avoiding even saying that dumb fuck's name.
Yeah.
Understandably.
But I told Steve, I was like, dude, I reached out to Steve because I was like, dude, I used to be a follower of that fucker. And I thought he was smart, but I realized he was dumb as fuck. But
not even fucking close.
But he just kept like repeating your name and Steve's name, and then finally, like everything came to light with the fucking unitard lawsuit, and I'm like,
all I'm gonna say, and I'm gonna, with respect, I'm gonna drop the subject right here because, like I said, I don't like talking about that.
I don't either.
Piece of shit. Is that I heard that he has some issues going on. And I just want to say good, and may that guy seriously go fuck himself. Yeah. And I hope they take his fingerless gloves and they shove it right up his ass. Anyway,
I well deserved.
I spent too much money, but I was duped by that motherfucker. I was like, but why is these guys bad?
Well,
I don't understand.
I hear,
like I said, with respect,
yeah,
with respect, I'm going to end that conversation right here because fuck that guy.
I do have a question to ask real quick too. Real quick.
Onto a subject at hand, since I can't sleep and I might as well talk about something.
All right. Can I do the super chat first? You get out of the way.
Yeah.
Siggy, thank you for 666. He says this 666 are to celebrate that Red's Rhetoric is in the house. Hey, say again. So 666. You're over your budget. Stop it, Siggy. But he's happy that you're in the house, Reds.
Yeah, Siggy's awesome.
Hail Satan. All right, go ahead.
Okay, so the question that I have is why are we talking about, or better yet, I should ask, why have you recently been getting like really involved in the whole LGBTQ plus debate space things? I don't know what the proper fucking title is here, but why have we been ramping up the discussions in that area of the internet?
It's been coming around lately on Twitter, news cycle stuff,
You're clickbaiting.
No, it's not. Clickbait is when you have something you don't really even like.
I'm just kidding.
No, because I think it's an important topic, and it's a topic that I actually believe in very strongly. And so
it is an important topic.
And I think that
it's an important topic. In what aspect, though? Because I have seen like a very significant uptick in this type of content on your page, and I'm just wondering like what the fuck's going on.
Well, the main thing is right now, I think the biggest topic is should children be exposed to material that are graphic in nature under the guise of sexual education, and also should they be allowed to medically transition at an age where they're not fully capable of making decisions that might render them sterile, impotent, or sexually inactive later on in life. And this is what Billboard Chris has been talking a lot with lately. So it's been coming around quite a bit. And so that's what's kind of been prevalent. And I think it's something that should be discussed.
Hey, Steve?
Yeah.
Can I ask a question?
Of course.
Is sexual education like an LGBTQ sponsored thing?
No.
Like, is this like a push from the LGBTQ community?
No, I don't think so. I mean, I wouldn't say so.
I mean, I don't understand how this particularly actually relates to the Pride community.
Well, I mean,
no, it's pushed by Moms for Liberty. Let's get this straight. One and foremost.
I think you should not discuss this right now and save it for Sunday, because you're gonna have this conversation right now.
I know. That's what I'm saying. Having a Sunday.
Here all night.
Right. Exactly.
No, it's fine.
Yeah, right.
I heard it.
And I got plans here tonight with someone, so I do got to cut it short because I got plans after 10.
Sorry.
That's cool.
Oh, excuse me, sir.
No, I'm sorry. No, I just what plans I had from days ago. I only get a certain amount of time to Skype with somebody.
Okay, so if we're running low on time, let me just try to get through this conversation as quickly as possible. So basically, the main thing going on with your account is that the topic that has been LGBTQ plus whatever the fuck has been centered around kids' involvement with that particular movement, and especially when it comes to like sexual education. And I'm sure people doing overly provocative shit in in front of kids underneath the banner of gay acceptance or whatever.
Correct.
Okay, so
because it's funny is everybody here is we're all like for Pride Month, we're all supporting the LGBT plus community. We all want people to be healthy, happy, and that's the problem. I see that most of the people that are like us, that are more the central, people, we may differ in certain things, but we can discuss the topics. What I see is the radicalization of various groups that want to shut down dialogue. And I can safely say I don't get shut down very easily on dialogue, and neither does Reds, especially if we believe something very strongly. And so when we see the radical people trying to shut down, and not just me, but they've tried to shut down other people in my live chat, and Atlas probably even try to shut down you if they disagree with you, or Siggy if they disagree with him. And I think that is really the takeaway. And Siggy, you said it best, that if you can't have an open space to test arguments and you test your positions, and then how are you ever going to know if you're right and wrong or something? But when you have these people coming and say you can't even talk about these subjects, that's where I go, no, that's antithetical of everything that I stand for, and what the non sequitur show stands for. We want to have the conversations. That's when,
who's telling you to not have the conversation
on Twitter. There's a lot of people.
Okay, so
this is why I met Atlas. Atlas was, and I was having the conversation on Twitter. It did get a little contentious, just like it was with Siggy, but we realized maybe we're talking past each other, and instead of going the hyperbolic route, it was okay. Let's go on air and talk about it, and I'm like all for that.
So just to be clear, let me ask these series of questions and then I'll be done. All right, number one, do you have zero problem with like Pride Month or people being waving the pride flag and shit like that?
Yeah, I have no problem with that, except I do think that obviously when you see pride flag everywhere you go, I call it saturation. It's overly saturating, and people do get fatigued when they see that kind of stuff. It's like even with patriotism. I'm a patriot. I love the American flag. But if all you saw was the American flag everywhere, it would become fatigued. So that is a viable, actual view that I think is worth discussing. Is it saturating the overall society? But do I have a problem with the flag itself? No. Does that make sense?
Okay, no problem with basically you're saying too much of a good thing can eventually become annoying.
Absolutely.
Okay, so that's step one. All right, number two, I assume you have zero issue with people showing support for the trans community by waving the trans flag. Zero
issue.
Okay, and you have zero issue by people having open dialogue about anything that's gay or trans related.
000. Yeah, I'm actually, that's what I promote. That's what I want people to do.
And one of the main contentious subjects is whether or not certain actions or let's say demonstrations are age appropriate for minors.
Yes, that and I mean that's not everything, but that is a big thing. Obviously,
a big thing.
Yeah, like an example.
Better word would be a big thing.
Yeah, Atlas and I were discussing. We were discussing on Twitter, which we're going to be talking about this Sunday. Is I want to know if women, biological women, is their view valid that if they feel uncomfortable having to shower with a biological male, is it a valid thing for them to be able to speak up against it? Or is it just, they just feel icky? It's just, because I think it was actually Alice that tried to say something along the lines of, blacks didn't want to, or whites didn't want to shower with blacks at one time.
Okay. Can I clarify something real quick?
Sure.
Because I think you absolutely missed what I was going for, and maybe it's Twitter. Yeah, it was me. So what I was referring to, we were talking with I believe. Let me pull up the exact thing real quick if you don't mind.
No,
Because I have it right here.
Yeah, while you're doing that, I just want to get the gist of it out. But basically, that obviously is a form of racism, right? I mean, if you're a white person and you are refusing to take a shower with somebody who's black, that's just racism. There's no other words to describe that. And I think that's completely different than a woman who's biologically female that can, be impregnated or, it's just, to me, if I was a woman, I would not want to shower with a person who's a biological male. I can step into their role and say, I wouldn't want that. Yeah, go ahead.
Okay, so
as a female, we'll talk about this on Sunday. Hi, here's my boobs. I'm not trans. I don't have a dick. But I was also raised around people.
You what?
I was raised around people that were gay, LGBTQ. I fought for the hate crimes bill, and I got a fucking asshole dog that keeps barking at me. I'll keep it short. I fought for the hate crimes bill. Shut the fuck up. I love you. I fought for the hate crimes bill back in the early 2000s, and it finally got passed.
Mm-hmm.
And who am I to say as a person? Because when I was dealing with depression, and shush, I love you. We will go hang out in a second. But when I dealt with my own depression and things that I had to deal with medications, I think about the person that's transgender. I think about them at my age. That was like, I was dealing with depression. But who's to say about gender identity? I don't judge people. I judge people on $0 to be a decent person and not a dick. And that's where I stand.
And that's my position as well. Hey, one second. Isn't that what Martin Luther King wanted, though?
I'll discuss this more later.
Yeah, on Sunday. Save it for Sunday. But isn't that what Martin Luther King wanted? Is that people should be judged by the content of the character, not the color of their skin? That's what the movement for racial equality was all about. That, I think, has been a little bit hijacked by the critical race theory, which is a completely different subject. But I think that Martin Luther King would probably even be upset about certain things that have happened in, subsequently since he's been around, because that was where I was raised. I was raised as that the color of your skin did not matter. It was the context of your character. But you have people out there that all they want to make it about is the color of people's skin. And even people that are black are getting upset by that because it's not what they want to be known for. Imagine being a minority and all you're known for is because you're part of that minority for some reason. I wouldn't want that.
Getting back to it, though, so the conversation is going to be about, like, for example, the sharing of bathrooms or locker room spaces.
Oh, yeah. I got that thing pulled up, if you don't mind.
Mostly showers, but yeah.
Mostly showers and certain actions being age appropriate, or certain venues or events being age appropriate for kids.
Yes. Like on Gay Pride, I have absolutely no problem with Gay Pride, but there are obviously exceptions where they have people that are walking around, pretty much. I
think we can all agree that there's sick fucks all over the place, regardless if they're gay or straight.
Yeah, and let me make this very, very clear before I get to you, Atlas. Let me make it very, very clear. Okay. I do not, in any way, shape, or form, think the outliers of the LGBT plus community are the norm. I think they are the outliers. I think they're the 2, 3, 4 standard deviations. It's a very small amount of them. But unfortunately, the Pride community, some of them will speak out, but some of them won't, and they try to sweep that under the rug instead of dealing with it. And I think that overall gives the alt-right very strong ammo to be used against them, and it harms the community as a whole. You can't just sweep the problems of a community under the rug. You have to deal with them head on. And some people in the Pride community do that, and they are very effective at it. But,
so you believe that, like, for example, the LGBTQ community, in general, is not out there sexualizing kids.
Oh, God, no.
It's really the outliers.
It's the outliers.
Giving the group as a whole a bad name.
Exactly. That's why I was speaking up against Dylan, McVaney, and that's why I was speaking against Jeffrey, and those guys, because I think they do give a very bad name.
Who's Dylan? Who?
Dylan Mulvaney, the guy that made Bud White.
Wait, is that the Bud Light person?
Yeah, Bud Light, that $27 billion in loss in market capital.
And the Bud Light.
And Jeremy Marsh is the other one.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, I just wanted to make sure I knew you were talking.
But think about this, and I know Alice wants to get in. I'm sorry, but I apologize.
It's okay.
Real quick, because I love this we're saying for Sunday, but what I think is, you have people that are more have religiosity and the alt-right, and the people that are like, the Matt Walshes of the world. They're using the small percentage of people in the pride communities that do these types of things to try to plug to the whole, which is dishonest. It's a fallacy of composition, and that actually should be spoken out against as well. And so, to say that just because you agree with Matt Walsh on one particular point doesn't mean you agree with him on many other things, because the way he is approaching it, I think is from a biblical perspective that I don't agree with. Obviously, anybody who thinks that God created man and woman from the dust of the earth and from a rib, I don't agree with. Anybody who thinks that women should be subservient to men, and the Bible is pretty misogynistic. Let's be straight here. I disagree with anything in the Bible when it comes to any of that. I disagree with having women being subservient to men. And so I think that their entire paradigm, their entire foundation of religious beliefs that puts, the man ahead of the woman from some religious reasons, I openly denounce that.
Is this going to be like this conversation that's going to be had? Is it going to be like a debate?
Well, it's Atlas and I here, and I don't think it's going to be a debate. I think it's going to be more like this.
More discussion.
Yeah, more discussion.
I see. Because I just wanted to make sure I knew what was upcoming.
Let Atlas go over what he was going to go over, then ask me your
audio. Okay.
Because people are going to Reds going, oh my God, Steve lost his mind. Yet Reds goes, I've talked to Steve and he seems pretty reasonable.
I'll actually say something about that. But I don't mean to step on your toes there, but I just got to get this out real quick.
Right.
Steve is my friend, and if I have any sort of issue with him, if I disagree with something that he says, I don't need to make a fucking spectacle of it on Twitter, you reprehensible fucks.
It's pretty bad, right? I know. If I saw like Rez go out and buy this cheap, nasty foreign car, I'd be going, dude, we got to talk, man. What the hell were you thinking? Maybe I would make that a spectacle, actually. If you bought some really piece of shit.
Like I said, I said that. Anyways, please yes. Go ahead, sir.
Atlas,
I stepped on your toes there.
Atlas,
that's fine. No, you're fine, Reds.
We haven't forgotten about you. Go ahead.
Okay, so how this all started is that I saw you respond to a tweet, and that's Twitter is a garbage heap of a place, yep. But that's where we all live.
Yep.
We know what you really mean, which was a hashtag Pride 2023. I know you know what post I'm referring to.
Mm-hmm, I do.
So it's the meme. Once again, I'm just going to quickly get over it so I can get to where I was going with this. Why do they have to shove it in my face? Which is the quotation. Is translation. I liked it better when you're invisible, and I could pretend you didn't exist.
Right.
And the response you put to this was actually that used to be the very goal of the LGBTQ plus, to just be treated like anyone else and no one give a shit who they were attracted to or what they identified as. Now it is all they want people to know. Yeah. Massive shift there, to say the least. When we get over here.
By the way, how many views does that comment have? How many views does it have comment now have?
I think you have like 9,979.
Yeah, it's a pretty popular comment because I think a lot of people agree with that, especially the older people.
I disagree with that.
Oh, I know. That's why we're going to be talking Sunday.
Yeah, so like the point. Yeah, but the point here is when I say that, I think you have a misunderstanding of the LGBTQ community on this regards, because that's the exact same thing that's still going on. Like, the work is not done.
Yeah, well, that's
like you don't. We'll discuss that. And as some, so like for me, I just want to give a quick like this is sort of personal to me on some level, so I have to come with a bias here, and like admit that, because I've had family who are in this who still have this oppressive shit happening to them daily, and it's not something that goes away. Like, yes, there's outliers. Maybe there's these sideways, backwards ass people who have the same sort of beliefs that are fucking around and finding out. But when it comes to the core community, it's still the same it's ever been. It's still trying to push for normalization of people like this in public spaces. They belong in just as much as the people who are not them.
And I think everybody would agree upon that. But that, again, that's what we're going to talk about Sunday. Is it have their methods gone too far to accomplish that goal, which I think has, if not close to it, it's sure a lot better in 2023 than it ever has been. I mean, like, for example, I live in California, and so maybe it's a different viewpoint, because in California, I guarantee you, nobody cares. We just don't care. It's gay, straight, nobody cares. It's just, you don't walk around going, hey, are you gay? Are you straight? Nobody cares. It is achieved that goal.
Real quick, real quick. So what spawned me starting my channel at all is because I saw this person. His name is Orthodox Kyle. And he has this it's a Christian YouTube thing, but it was big enough and it just somehow ended up in my feed. And it's this argument of like, well, these people are coming for your kids.
Well,
these people are doing these things.
Yeah, I don't argue that. I've spoken out against that, right?
But the argument here is, when I bring this up to you, and I say that you're in error here, it says, what you think is completely in error, it has absolutely changed. Show me how changing words are used or insisting one that must use a specific pronoun, which I'm not talking about, or that biological males have a right to shower with biological women. And that's when it starts getting a little bit red flaggy to me.
And that's what we're going to be talking about on Sunday. Yeah.
Right. Yeah. But like the specific example I'm bringing up, the thing that you... And like, of course, we're going to have this conversation. And honestly, I don't think you mean it in the way that I took it, obviously. But when you come over, it says, so to me, that comes off a little fear mongering, and not, once again, I don't think he meant that. But when it comes to this subject of, it's like, well, we're talking about, well, actually, this is still a group for equality, and that's what everybody's pushing. It's like, well, what about these cases in which like men are trying to shower with women, and that's not exactly what's happening?
Well, it is, and it's a lot of things in the transport community that's going on. They're big issues.
But it's a transport community. That's not the LGBTQ community as a whole.
But they're the ones promoting that. It is the LGBT promoting trans athletes to be able to be in women's spaces. That's the ones that are actually promoting that.
Yeah, but that's not what we're discussing right now. That's something else. I'm talking about like specifically this, because when it comes to about what about this? And when, what was it? When I said fear mongering, you asked for clarification on that. Do you think, and then the thing is, do you think biological women have no right to be afraid of biological men being forced to shower with them? And then that's the other thing, is forced. No one is forcing women to shower with men.
So let me make this. So you don't believe there's been I really want to say this on Sunday, but you don't believe there's ever been a case of a biological male that has been incarcerated in a female prison that had to use female showers. You don't think that's ever happened? Because I'll find your instances of it.
That has happened, but is that an LGBTQ thing that you're discussing?
Yes, because
a male prisoner was forced to shower with women, and that somehow represents the mainstream LGBTQ community? That's
not what I said.
That's what I'm discussing.
But that's not the argument, though. Who was pushing for a male? This is even what I even asked you. I said, do you consider transgender women to still be biological male? And you said it's irrelevant. That was your words, correct?
No. Do you think biological women have no right to be afraid of biological men being forced to shower with them?
And the second part was, I asked you, do you think biological women, do you think transgender women are still biologically men? You said it was irrelevant, correct?
Yes, it is irrelevant for a very specific reason. And that reason is that, yes, people are born genetically one way, but as they get over, they have these transitions, they have their dysphoria, they deal with what they have to deal with. And I'm just trying to be very general about this so we can move on. But once they have this and they go through the point of transitioning, for instance, would a trans... Okay, let me put it this way.
Save it for Sunday. Save it for Sunday. I have my arguments as well, but I don't want to put them all out tonight.
Right. Yeah, I get you. I know I'm probably coming a little hard, but I want to bring up the black kids and white kids thing.
But anyways, Reds, this is what the conversation is about. But
okay,
sorry.
Let Reds finish his questions, because I know a lot of people have been asking about stuff.
You're gonna need a moderator or something, man.
We have enough.
I'm gonna try not to be so heated.
I'm not going to get into it any
Reg,
further
are you here there Sunday? You want a mod?
I mean, I could.
It's up to you.
But to be completely honest with
I know it's not interesting.
This conversation is a lot like wiping my ass with sandpaper.
Yeah, no, I get it. Hey, do you want to talk about moral theory instead? Because I know you have.
No, I want to talk about
holy shit.
I'm good at. Again,
everybody's got their own thing, right? I mean, I have a hard time listening to another
flat earth debunking, where everyone can be, together and sing praises as we tell flat earthers to go fuck themselves.
But Reds, here's the difference. You're dealing with okay, there's nobody on the planet of a flat earther that's even like marginally going to be able to like do anything of consequence because they're fighting a lost battle, right? I mean, there's no debate to be even had there. You do it for
you misunderstand, Steve.
No,
it's all for my entertainment.
Exactly. No, I was going to say that. I do fully understand. It's for spectacle. It's for spectacle. I do fully understand. It's for entertainment purposes only. I totally understand. These people are idiots. These are actually issues that we're talking about, and I think actually have concrete, real life, things that should be addressed, so I think they are a little bit more important in that regard. And plus, your job is easy. How do you debate a flat earther? You just let them talk. I mean, they just,
Yeah, they'll defeat themselves.
Yeah. And so, but anyways, any other questions you have on it? Because like I said, I know people have like asked you shit, and you're like, okay, have I said anything that's too radicalized? I mean, again, this is normative stuff. This is basically the centrist position.
This is why I wanted to ask these clarifying questions, Steve, is because I think people, and I'm not going to mention names, but I think people got the impression that you were saying that the LGBTQ plus group as a whole was targeting and sexualizing kids.
That's stupid. That's the Matt Walsh. That's what Matt Walsh is trying to argue. Kind of crap.
This could be stemming from either a miscommunication or a misunderstanding on their part or your part. I really don't give a shit whose fault it was. That's why I'm here to ask the clarifying questions. And the one thing that I wanted to do was I wanted to make sure I had a solid grasp of what your actual position is.
Oh, you mean so let me clarify. You do the intelligent thing like a rational human being, and you actually go to the person and actually try to clarify their actual position. Damn you, Rich. What's wrong with you?
It's a shocking thing, I know.
I thought I trained you better than that. You're supposed to just yell and block people.
Steve, keep in mind, Steve, but keep in mind.
Can I say a quick thing?
Even though I go out of my way to understand this shit and all this stuff, I will always remain firm in my opinion that you are indeed an asshole and we love you for it.
Yeah, I'm okay with this. I mean, my title's A Holy Pope of Agnosticism. I've owned this, okay? I've accepted my fate.
Can I say a quick thing about
this?
Because the problem, I think, with this particular subject is that in one end of this conversation, there's a group of people and their allies who are basically seeing how the larger group of people with more money and power are basically trying to erase them from existence. And in the other side of this conversation, there's people trying to erase these people. And right in the middle of this, there's a bunch of people that don't care or don't give a fuck one way or another. And I'm fine with that. That's fine. That's actually it's part of the thing too. It'll be awesome that no one give a shit. But the thing is, in these conversations, if you say something, you might be saying something that is actually factual and it's correct, it's well written, but you may be expressing some ideas that come usually associated to other ideas or are not that okay.
Well, I mean, he believes don't live in a vacuum, sure.
This is the thing, that the person on the other side is not reading that. It's reading more into...
No, I agree with you. What they do is because they come to the conversation already theory laden. They come in with already they hear something and they automatically assume that is attached to something else. They don't take each argument individually. And I totally get this again, and I agree with you. But hang on one second. But that's Twitter. That's because of social media.
Twitter, it's social media, but also public discourse is full of dog whistles everywhere. And this is one of those subjects.
Well, like I don't say they don't exist. Yeah, go ahead.
Well, I'm going to look forward to this show. Basically have fun. I'm going to fuck off now.
I don't know if I don't know if I'm going to invite you now. No, okay.
Well,
but anyways, no. So seriously, I mean it. Reds has known me for a very long time. I mean, we have had God knows how many discussions and talks and everything like that. I've never heard Red say anything where I go, "Holy shit, that's radical." Oh my God, that's just so fucking beyond the pale. Never once. And I think that if I have said something that is beyond the pale, Reds is going to be somebody who calls me out on it. And I don't hear him doing that. I don't hear you saying, "Hey, Steve, your position is so whacked." If I would say something like, "Hey, like Ken Hovind, him advocating that government come in."
Jesus.
Yeah, I mean, here's the thing though. I don't know if people like Matt Walsh would even disagree with Matt in some cases, right? Because they have the same religious textbook kind of stuff. They seem to have the same religiosity. And so I don't even know if they would want something. I don't. I maybe Matt Walsh is a bad example, but at least the radical far right, the evangelistic fundies, they seem they when Sticky talks about genocide or killing off people, then I can get on board with that and say, yeah, these people do want that. I mean, Ken Hovind.
Yeah, they're cartoonishly evil.
Yeah,
it's really shocking.
Steven Anderson, Matt Powell, they're sick sons of a bitches. They are evil people. We all agree on that.
I can say for certain that if I have any issues with Steve, first and foremost, I'm going to go to him privately and take it up with him there. And if he ever says or does anything that goes well beyond that, again, I'm still going to talk to him privately. And if there's something that he says I disagree with, then I'll say, yeah, Steve said this thing. I disagree with it, but I'm not going to make a point to be the first one to post about it. Like, I'll say it as a response to a question, like, "Hey, Steve said this. Do you agree with that?"
I don't know really what.
And I'll give you an example. I'll give you an example.
You have an example where we disagree. Okay.
His insistence on having the debate about the definition of atheism.
Oh yeah.
I think is the
true.
most.
Yeah. No,
it's the most brain dead subject I have ever had the misfortune of listening to. And Steve, I would really wish one of these days you drop that shit.
I agree.
Because it is ass cancer.
Yeah. No, it
is actual.
I know we're never going to see. I know we're never going to see eye on that.
I want you to know it is ass cancer at the highest degree. I would rather eat a shit sandwich with no guac.
Well, that's
than listen to another conversation about the definition of fucking.
But dude, this is kind of what I feel like flat Earth. It's like it's like, oh my god, what could be said? What else could they bring to the table? You know what would be interesting? It'd be interesting. I try now, if you haven't noticed, when I do talk about that subject, to have somebody come in with a little bit different perspective or things of a different nature. You know what would be really interesting on your channel, Reds? Can you find a flat earther that actually has an original thought? Is that possible?
Probably
no.
Not.
Damn. Okay, how about one that's
really depressing?
How about one that actually has attempted to write a paper like I did?
I know
it would pretend it doesn't exist.
I mean,
the moment it's written,
they can. Well, I know a few that have started to write papers, but they unfortunately ate the crayons halfway through.
Yeah, they gotta be careful. That's something that could be toxic. Right. Yeah, they stick up their nose.
I mean, apparently the shit's tasty. What can I say?
Yeah, no, but that's what I'm saying.
Jarenism's favorite color is blue.
How many times can I hear water doesn't bend? How many times I hear Lake Pontchartrain? How many times can I? I mean, I love it. Don't get me wrong, and I love what you do. You know that. I really, honestly think you are the best at this, but it does get a little bit much. It's just like anything else. But that's
exactly.
But you know what I do? I watch the ones I want to watch. I don't want the ones I don't. I don't tell you. I don't tell you what to. I don't tell you what to do your channel.
And that's why I don't get involved in every single conversation that Steve gets involved into. Personally, I don't give a fuck about half the shit he talks about.
And I wouldn't want him to. It's like, it's not his shtick. Nothing,
So yeah, my thing is space, debunking flat Earth, rockets, and that kind of shit. If you want to see more of that shit, follow me. But with that being said, I'm gonna get the fuck out of here. Have a good night, people.
Thank you, bud.
Sayonara, Reds.
Yeah. And it's the same thing I got over on Aaron's channel. Aaron will talk about certain topics. I'll listen if I want to listen. If I'm not interested in a particular topic, I don't listen. But I never tell her what she should or should not talk about. Ever. And I think that's the way it is for all content creators. I think that if you want to listen to the content, this was fun tonight. And somebody said that this was kind of a sneaky way to have a tease what's we're looking forward to on Sunday. Yeah. Actually it was. And I wasn't intended, but sure, go with that. But here's the thing though. I can tell already that you're articulate, you're intelligent, you actually have an actual position that you feel very strongly for. That's what I respect, Atlas. I don't like people that oppose. I don't like people that put forth things they don't believe in or use severe sophistic techniques. I don't like that. I like people that have an actual position that can articulate an argument, and then you say, okay, that might be a good point. How about this? And you have a back and forth. Those are my favorite freaking types of discussions. But do you know how hard
because they're actually productive,
right? Do you know how hard it is to find people like that?
Oh, very hard because no one actually really cares. Nope. There's so much just posturing going on. And I know I can get pedantic and I can become an asshole myself, but one of the things I enjoy is just having this, it's why philosophy was so interesting to me, is because you can actually have a discourse on these certain things. And it's not an argument. It's literally just a disagreement. It's like, well, let's see if we can find common ground and see the values of each and other position.
Right. And I think that's called a dialect. That's the whole point of having a dialectic. That's what's called having as you put it, a productive discussion. And when you have a synthetic synthesis of some kind of dialectics between two people, and you reach common ground, I don't know any better conversation for that. That's why I don't even do debates any longer. Really, if you want to watch debates, you have Modern Day Debate, and James loves them, and he took that idea and ran with it and done extremely successful for his channel, and I'm very happy for him. And
he's turned that into a machine.
No, that took a lot of effort to do all that, and that a lot of that did come from the Non Sequitur show and stuff. But I didn't have that drive, and that's not the direction I was going to go. And plus, I don't even want the popularity of YouTube, we were getting. Now knowing what I know in hindsight, it's just not worth it.
No, there's too many hands and too many pots.
It's so evil, the people out there, and I have, unfortunately, because of YouTube, have been introduced to people that I would not even go out of my way to piss on if they were on fire, kind of thing. Very, very evil people. But you know what? In the long run, it's made me better. I'm in a better place now in my life than I've ever have for a very long time. I'm doing great physically, emotionally, mentally. I love my job. I even though I've kind of been on my diet a little bit, I've still been eating what I want to eat. I've just been living my life, and so I think to myself, look, anything that would have been different, I wouldn't be in the place I'm at now, and it could be a hell of a lot worse. Obviously, everything could be better. That everybody could do better. But you know what? If you don't appreciate what you have and don't realize that you are still far better off than the vast majority of other people, in the most cases, especially people that live in other countries, third world countries. I live in a place. I go half a mile around the corner and I can see homeless people. I can see people living in squalor and destitution.
Yeah.
And I'm thankful that I'm not having to live my life like that. And so
anyone that does has a severe lack of awareness.
Yeah. And so I think people need to be appreciative of what they have. And you know what? YouTube's taught me that. YouTube definitely taught me that. The experiences that I had on YouTube has taught me more than ever. Live your life and appreciate it, because there's some shitty fucking people out there, and their whole lives are spent trying to vilify and harm others. And you don't want to be like those people. And so that taught me a very valuable lesson. I'm grateful for every experience I've ever had. But now that I am putting more effort in real life stuff, I don't have the time to dedicate like James has for like doing debates, even if I wanted to. Discussions maybe, but I think the discussions are more productive. The debates are entertaining, I guess, but it's not my goal.
Debates are more like a popularity contest, is what I've been able to tell. It's like somebody comes in, and before anyone's even gotten like 10 fucking words out of their mouth, the entire chat just explodes for their party. Like it's a fucked up football game.
It's tribalism. Oh, look what happened to the Dave Farina and the James Tor thing. That was tribalism to the max. And then most of us that were actually watching that wanted to evaluate the debate, almost everybody sided with Tor. And none of us are creationists. None of us are religious people. We want very much, the creationism kind of go away, and we think Tor is wrong. But the debate sucked. Dave was shit. There's no.
I don't think Dave's point was to actually go in and have a debate.
It wasn't.
I mean, Dave. I guess, like, once again, I'm not defending the thing, but like, I would say that I see Dave's point. When you have someone like James Tor who is working at the level that he's working, he should know what he's talking about. And when he's got all these minds looking up to him, and they're all learning from him, and it's clearly that on the side, he's also got this side gig running his young Earth, close to young Earth creationist crap, and trying to twist it onto this intelligent design thing. And then also, what is it? He is like straight up going after these people that exist in these fields. And he's just talking shit about them the entire time. This is a professional. And so when Dave goes in there, the way I saw it was that he didn't come there to debate. This wasn't going to be some peaceful thing. He wants this man exposed, and he wants to get, honestly, someone at this guy's level, he shouldn't be able to do what he's doing. He should be held to a higher standard that is clearly not being held.
I'm telling you, dude, if David would have gone in and he would have said something along those lines, or at least, argued to the point where he can show people why Tor is wrong, I don't think he would have had that much pushback. But that's not what he did.
Well, all up there, like all up in that group were like James Tor sycophants. Like they had a lot of his people out in the crowd. Like he had his congregation there to start shouting shit every time the conversation was going to go. So like if he would have went the normal way, it would have just been monkeys throwing shit down at him.
We don't know. I mean, he had his people there too. Dave had his people there too.
Yeah, but not a whole lot. But also, I don't know if any of you saw it, but there was some sort of like review of this debate with Aaron Ra and Dave. And
I know Aaron Ra and Dave have their own thing going on over there. I just for the purposes of the thing.
No, but they talk about this specifically, and Dave said that he wasn't going there to debate.
No, we know that.
Okay, so like I interpreted that.
He was going there to expose him as a fraud.
Right.
And
he's a fraud. He shouldn't be teaching where he is.
Siggy, here's the problem though. First of all, he could be a fraud when it comes to certain things and still teach proper chemistry. Chemistry is a science. Either a carbon atom is a carbon atom kind of shit. Okay, so that doesn't matter. But the point is he wasn't going on the non sequitur show like Arn was to try to debunk Ken Hovind, right? We gave when Arn did debate with Hovind, we gave Arn carte blanche, right? So he was fine to
remains one of my favorite debates.
It really is.
No, it's one of the best. Very first video I saw.
I love
on this channel, like back in the day, and it's what got me interested in all this.
But did you not?
It actually was my path out of young Earth creationism when I was younger.
Really, that video?
Yeah.
Okay. We'll have to discuss that on Sunday because I'm curious about that. I always talk to people that left young Earth creationism. I love doing that, and I want to do more topics like that.
But
that's
Steve,
what I want to do in this channel. Talk about that.
Tor is basically doing in his field what other people do with like Deepak Chopra does with quantum physics.
Okay.
He's spreading misinformation, and that's all he's doing.
In the same way, he's using origin of life. Let's give you that. Deepak Chopra is using quantum mechanics.
Let's give you that. Let's assume that's true. Okay, make that assumption. The Rice University venue was not the place for it because look what happened.
What venue? He agreed to it there because that's where he wanted to have it.
Listen, if the people in the audience are not going to be changed or swayed, think about this from again the audience point of view. If you're on the Tor side, you see Dave just doing nothing but attacking. All you're going to see is the person you believe, Tor, and you see a person attacking them nonstop. And you go like, this dude's an asshole. He has nothing to offer you. You've now just had the backfire effect, or the entrenchment effect. The backfire effect, right?
But these were like a congregation. Okay, so these people were going to go in and support him no matter what. I think what Dave was trying to do was to expose him to the university.
Okay, but that didn't happen.
This man doesn't need to be where he is.
But that didn't happen.
Well, that didn't happen, but that was the intent. I think that, yes, it might have backfired, but I think that his heart was in the right place, and I think he did what he should have done.
See, I disagree.
I don't think he could have done that a better way because James Tor and him have had conversations in the past. If you go look at their,
I know that.
There's a whole bunch.
No, I know, but you know how I would have done it? The first time James Tor put a chemical equation on the board where he wanted to figure, he asked him something along the lines of how in a prebiotic world do you have lysine? Was it arginine or was it aspartic acid? I think it's aspartic acid. So you have two amino acids, and he asked, how does these things form a dipeptide? How do they polymerize in a prebiotic universe? Right? Okay, fair question. There's nothing wrong with that. That's a chemistry question, is it not? How does this dipeptide form? What method? What pathway would because from what I understand in modern biology, the only way for that pathway to occur is through very, very, sophisticated proton enzymatic functions and other things to make this amino acids bind together. It requires modern facilities in the cell to produce these necessary enzymes to cause that to happen, to lower the activation energy. But they didn't have that prebiotically. So all he had to say was this: that equation you have on the board is something that is unresolved as of the moment. But the topic is, are we clueless? We're not clueless because we have other amino acids like glycine that can polymerize in a prebiotic conditions. And here's a paper that shows how this other amino acid can join with other amino acids. Therefore, we're not clueless. We haven't got to that step yet, but science is a learning process.
Well, but that happened. That happened in the exchange of videos they had prior to this debate.
Yeah, they had an entire thing.
This debate was basically go there and make him look like a fool.
I get.
He kind of did. I think he succeeded in showing the Tor is basically a clown.
See, here's the thing.
But I can agree that it could have been handled better.
He didn't. He didn't show that he was a clown.
Yeah, me too. I agree with that too.
He didn't show he was a clown. That's the problem. Because the people, not once, I can guarantee not one person in that audience or watch that video changed their position. Not a single person.
Well, in that regard, I don't. So, the thing is, okay, Steve, let's say, for example, that Dave hadn't come out there guns blazing and it went the calm, specific route. Mm-hmm. The way that the debate was set up was so that it was a question return. And the moment Dave would begin to speak, Tor would start screaming over him and prioritize the time because that's what he's like. He is like a Kent Hovind. he will sit there and he will scream over you in a public. If in a public forum, he will just scream over you and try to prioritize that time. Dave, so he just got it. He's like, here's my stack of papers. I know what's already going to happen. This man is a shit show. And then it's paper. Okay, here's what you want. I have it right here. Paper. Here's what you want. I have it right here. But it wasn't
what he wanted. You agree.
No, because James Tor doesn't want anything. He wants to spread misinformation and keep his flock.
But you agree the paper that James cited, the Lehman paper, had nothing to do with the polymerization question asked by Tor. It had nothing to do with it. It wasn't for those two amino acids.
That thing written up on the board was incorrect.
There was an error?
Like the thing that James wrote on the board, yeah, it's incorrect. Like, go back to, like, I was so interested in this because I saw that there were some people that were like, I think this could have been handled better. Dave did. Like, he has a video that's explaining the misinformation in the actual debate itself.
I'll check into that. I will check into that because
so like the thing he wrote up on the board is incorrect as well.
Okay, because Tor, from my understanding, Tor has a really good ability to write things chemically, and Dr. Sygard, who came on the show, said that was something that he couldn't even do. But Dr. Paul Rimmer did a full analysis of the debate, and he didn't even catch that. Then, if what you're saying is true.
Like maybe I'm wrong, but like when I saw it, like it pulled it up, showed a correct chart of it in the thing. So like there was the thing with James Tor is that like the entire point of that debate is he wrote his little thing on there, and that was going to be his go-to the entire debate was like right on the board for me, waste your time so I could just sit here and keep gish galloping the entire debate.
Because he knows he's asking a question that has no answer to it. That's the reason why he did it.
But like it's still at the same time. It's like he's asking something. The thing he writes on the board is incorrect. So further proving his incompetence, and then he goes over to have the debate further.
Well, I've talked to many PhDs, and not one of them have said that it was incorrect. So I have to look into that. Not one.
Yeah, and once again, if I'm wrong, then I'll go to say straight here, like hand to God, I fucked up.
Certain people, I cannot. I obviously I can't, tell everybody who I've talked to. There's just certain people that don't want to get involved. But people do know
sorry
that
to interrupt you.
Yeah.
I'm about to leave because it's really late over here. But it's for what I've heard so far. I'm really looking forward to this conversation.
Thank you, Siggy. Me too.
It's gonna be interesting.
It'll be fun. I appreciate it, man, very much. So fine.
Hey, nice to meet you, man. You're awesome.
Help promote.
Nice to meet you too, Siggy.
Help promote Sunday. Get the word out there. It's going to be fun. Okay?
Will do, man.
Yep. And thank you for all your support.
Sure, man. Bye.
So as, like I said, I did talk to both atheist and Christian biologists, specifically biochemist, one who has a very large channel on YouTube, and he definitely sided with Dave as far as Tor being dishonest. He didn't say that Tor's chemistry was wrong, which is a big thing.
So I'm gonna double check myself real quick. It's like at the beginning of it.
All right.
Let me just pull it up real quick.
But neither here nor there. I mean, imagine this. I mean, Dave, you saw what Dave was saying on Twitter and how he's been addressing people. He has supposedly a little bit of background in philosophy. He's done philosophical videos. He's talked about Aristotelian relationships. He said my paper was dumb, even though he didn't read it, which is the height of intellectual dishonesty. If you did read my paper, he certainly should have the skills to understand it because he has done videos on Aristotelian relationships. If he wanted to,
is this Dave we're talking about right now?
Yeah. So if Dave wanted to debate me on the topic and we went to debate, and all he had to say to me was, "Steve, you're dishonest," blah blah blah, but didn't address my paper, I would be pretty upset by that. This is why I don't think anybody's ever going to debate him ever again, because he's not going to address the topic, because he just shat on my paper saying that it was dumb, even though he couldn't show any errors in it. And I know he couldn't show any errors in it because I've had it reviewed by countless experts and none of them have found errors. Well, I mean, over time, I mean, yes, initially there was it wasn't any major mistakes, there were some minor corrections. I fixed all of them. So I knew the logic was always right though. But if he wanted to show me up and say, "Hey, Steve, Steve's doesn't know what the hell he's talking about and Steve's completely wrong on this particular topic," all he would have to do is take my paper and show the errors in it, correct? But he won't do that. He'd rather badmouth me by saying for some reason that I hate him because he showed that I was wrong, which he didn't do. And that is what people are looking at right now with Dave. They're seeing his egotism and his narcissism because he's not taking any constructive criticism. You and I could disagree about the debate on the style and things of that nature, but I respect your opinion on it. He won't have anybody he won't allow any dissent. He has an echo chamber. He just blocks anybody who doesn't automatically kiss his ass. That's, to me, is the antithesis of what I go for. So, yeah, me and Dave are nothing alike when it comes to that.
I mean, like maybe it's not his strong suit. I don't know. I don't know the actual like full on like the. Oh wait, crap. Sorry. I think I'm at the point. Let me get it. Yeah, I think it's exact.
Well, give me the timestamp in DM. I do got to wrap this up. I apologize.
Yeah, no, that is perfectly fine. It's on checking James Torr's embarrassing debate performance. Once again, it's hyperbolic, but it's Professor Dave Explains. It's about 9 minutes in, and then he pulls up and he starts drawing it, and I think that's where the correction comes in.
I saw parts of the video, and I know he tried to address Dr. Rimmer. Who, by the way, he at least sat down.
And he brought in a couple of people.
But here's the thing: he actually sat down. I mean, Dr. Paul Rimmer at least sat down and explained the science to people. And Dave didn't do that, and that's, I think, was a missed opportunity. And the people he brought in, I haven't watched it all yet, but I still don't think any of them have said that the paper he has answered Tor's question, which was my argument to him. I was like, Dave, are you going to go on record to say that these papers answered his questions? Because I'm telling you, I have people that are PhDs in this field telling me that they didn't, and I would like to have a PhD tell me that they did, and I can't find one. Will you provide the name of somebody? He couldn't do it. And so the people that he has on his channel, none of them have I've seen have gone on record to say, yes, Dave, this paper you cited answered Tor's question. Not one. If somebody knows of a timestamp on there of an expert saying that, I would like to know where, because it's really weird that I have all these experts saying that they didn't, and he has not one yet that said that he did. He has sycophants that just agree with him blindly that he did, because he's literally doing the fallacy by assertion. I did. Okay, where in this paper does it say this? Because it doesn't. It doesn't address those specific amino acids. So,
okay.
Anyways, though, we'll get back into more. But anyways, Atlas, I really do appreciate this, man. Seriously, this is what.
Yeah, I appreciate it too.
This is what I live
conversation.
For. And I'm happy that on Twitter you didn't let the toxicity of Twitter get to you. And I do. There's a litmus test there, even though it's not intentional. I on Twitter am maybe a little bit different, obviously, than I am on YouTube, but it is to draw out the people that I really don't want to have a conversation with. You stood your ground, and you were willing to put your views to the test. And when you said, let's go and talk about this, I realized, okay, this person really is sincere about this. Let's do this. I like this. And that's what I really appreciate from people that are sincere. So when I say that it's refreshing to find somebody like you, even though we disagree, I truly mean this. I really, truly mean this, because people can't look past the toxicity on Twitter. And it's, again, when you're typing things in 280 character, you can't always get your meaning across perfectly.
Yeah.
And it sucks. So I want to thank you for that, Alex.
Yeah.
Okay.
Some things take a conversation instead of
Yeah. Oh yeah, absolutely. Yeah. So a lot. Yeah. Can you imagine trying to explain very complicated math in Twitter? It's just hard to do. Or, I know.
What was that? One out of like 500 posts.
What's that?
Like you just sit there and like marking it like 1/500.
Right, exactly.
To go through, like it's not the right form. There really needs to be like an extension or something.
Yeah, like I had that problem the other day. I was going to put the William Lane Craig Alex debate. I did a blog on, right, and I was arguing because Dave said he could kick William Lane Craig's ass, and I'm like, dude,
I saw that post.
Yeah. Look, I don't agree with William Lane Craig, but the dude should not be trifled with when it comes to philosophy. He is well educated. Okay, that's like saying Alexander Pruss, or Josh Rasmussen, or Swinburne. Any of those, you're not in their league, dude. You're just not. No way. Even experts that are in that field are not in their league. Graham Oppie respects those names. They respect Graham Oppie and Paul Draper.
Oh, I've got his first book actually. Who? I need to go through that.
Pruss?
Because I'm sorry?
Who, Pruss or Oppie?
Oppie.
Oh yeah, I love Oppie. He's my favorite contemporary philosopher. But yeah, we're none of us are on that level. And so for Dave to say he would kick William Crane's ass, I'm like, oh my God, this is just hubris. And I said, okay, so here's my blog on the Malpass discussion. It took me 3 days to understand this, and I was gonna put the whole blog on Twitter, step by step, and then I was like, oh my God, I'm at 15, /15, and I was like, you know what, I just put the blog on there, but yeah, it would be really difficult because it's very hard to do on Twitter to go look at that entry that I have and tell me how it would be. I would explain the difference between future simple future perfect and future perfect tense using modal logic on Twitter. It's just extremely difficult, right?
Wow, dude.
Yeah, for him to say that he would kick William Lane Craig's ass in philosophy, come on.
Okay, so I gotta say something here because I feel like it's a prerequisite on the channel as much as I see the definition of atheism debate. Mm-hmm. I'm a hard atheist.
Good.
So just put it out there. It's like that. Like
I it's so funny. People are like, oh, Steve, he's against atheism. I'm like, no, I support atheist group. I just want people to be honest in their position. Yeah.
You would rather like they actually identify themselves instead of like going to this convince thing. Yeah.
Yeah, and I'm not promoting agnosticism. It just works for me. But like, if somebody's a theist, if they can justify it, okay, fine. If they're an atheist and can justify it, okay, fine. Let's have discussions. But to say that, oh, you can only be atheist or you can only be theist, yeah, that's just philosophically naive. And that's
what do you think about Ayn Rand's take on atheism?
Oh God, I read I read Atlas Shrugged, and I wanted to.
Oh, you read? Okay, so have you read Leonard Peikoff's overview of objectivism?
No,
the ground pegs.
I looked into objectivism a few years back because you know Mark Pellegrino.
No, I do not know Mark Pellegrino.
He plays Lucifer on Supernatural, the show Supernatural.
Oh, okay.
But he's an objectivist, and so he and I for years have gone back on and ran objectivism.
Huh.
And so back then I did look into it a little bit, and I found I just had some major issues. To me, objectivism is the gateway drug to philosophy. It's like philosophers may start off with Ayn Rand objectivism, but they eventually move into actual philosophy. So I don't like her writings. I don't like her positions. It's very, very, very.
She's a very contentious person.
Oh yeah, she was very against altruism.
Brilliant though.
She was very. I guess in her own way. I don't agree with her viewpoints though, at all.
Well, yeah, there's a lot of things I don't agree with either. But like her take on, what was it? I think her three axioms are existence. What was it? Existence, consciousness, and identity.
Yeah.
Her take on that is brilliant.
That's what he would argue too. But we had our discussions on identity and direct realism numerous times back in the day. Whether because she has what's called it's been a long time I looked at it. And I'm not googling, but she had something relating to direct realism, naive reality. But she called it something else, and I don't remember the term she called it. But it was just another variation on whether.
Yeah, that's the really strange thing that she has like a lot of
her own language.
She changes for the sake. Yeah. But like when you like look at it, so far it's been eternally consistent, and I'm only bringing it up because I'm reading the hell out of it right now.
Yeah.
But that'll probably change when I get into something else and start stitching together what works.
Yeah, most everyone does because she uses her own private little language, and to me she just seems to be describing naive realism. That's all. And I actually kind of agree in that way. I don't think we have direct access to reality.
Right.
And that's just because of many factors relating to mental states, relating to biological hardwiring, relating to phenomenology. But that gets into theory of mind, which is very, very complicated. But I think that when you have these conversations with philosophers, if you don't use the actual language they're using, then you get kind of confused. And I think Ayn Rand just wanted to set herself apart by making her own little version of philosophy using her own terminology. But she didn't come up with anything I thought was novel. She just rebranded things in her own way.
Well, the thing that I really loved was the argument is existence exists, right?
And then
from there,
yeah,
but like a consciousness is predicated on existence, and identity is predicated on existence as well. So in that way of framing things, consciousness could not exist before existence itself. Therefore, a thinking agent couldn't exist.
Well, again, when you talk about
that's the interesting fact for me because like I find that
when you're talking about existence, so there's a lot of different. See, normally we talk about existence being the entirety of the universe as far as possible worlds.
Well, I mean, just what is pretty much the way that she takes it. So it's like existence itself.
She takes it foundationally. I take it axiomatically, yes, but I take it as a properly basic belief. I say that we cannot prove reality exists. We assume it is, and then we draw inference from there.
Well, I mean, yeah, the assumption is inherent, but I mean, like at the same time, like I can understand that from her point of view, she would just want to cut that middleman out. It's like, no, look, we can't get anything beyond this. So at this point, it just treated as an axiom. Existence is existence.
Yeah, no, I'm okay with that. Before we could
discover anything before existence,
I treat it as an axiom as well.
You would have to have like first hand of that.
But like for identity, I do subscribe that the law of identity is immutable. But I define law of identity as any person in philosophy should. All of x equals x. That's how I define. And I do mean that prescriptively, not descriptively, but I prescriptively define the law of identity as all of x equals x. And
yeah, so something is.
Something is, right. So you can instantiate that with anything you want, and it is what it is. And if you look at the Kantian version of the noumenon versus phenomenon, his version was very similar. Something is of itself, right? So Kantian had his version of it. Even Leibniz had his own version of it, right? With the law of identicals, or the indistinguishabilities of identicals. He had his
I'm gonna have to read on him.
Look up Leibniz and look it up. The indistinguishability of identicals or indiscernibilities of identicals. It's the same principle. It basically says if two objects have the same exact properties, they are the same object, right? And so an object that is itself has all the same properties. Of itself, that's identity. But anyways, I know we're way off topic, but I love philosophy. I love this shit too, dude. I can talk about. I want to get high one night and just talk about this shit, whether we're right or wrong. I don't care. I swear to God,
some wacky shit.
Can we do that one night, Brandon? Would that something people are interested in? I leave you guys with this because I do got to go. If you guys want to see a show where we just get fucking high as shit,
fucked up, and
just philosophize whether it makes sense or not, because it clearly is not going to fucking either or that we're going to be absolutely brilliant. Have you ever been high and thought to yourself, Jesus Christ, I just thought of something that is absolutely fucking amazing, and then the very next day one or two things happens, you don't remember it or go oh shit, that was pretty stupid, but at the time though, damn, it's fucking brilliant, ain't it? Have you had that?
I haven't sufficiently found a drug to want to get me high yet.
I just an edible like.
I mean, I'm in Texas, right? So like that shit's fucking squashed.
You can't do it in Texas?
Oh hell no!
Get the move!
It fucking sucks.
Fuck
it's
your
the
state!
Worst.
Oh, that sucks too.
Jonah,
I'm in California.
The best we have is kava. I think it's like you can drink kava if you want.
Seriously, pot is still illegal in Texas?
Oh hell yeah, it's red state, dude.
Oh fuck me! You know what? There you go. Well, let's agree with here and leave it with that. Since Texas is a red state and pot's illegal there, vote them out of office. Vote.
Oh Democrat. Fuck yeah! It's like every year, it's like I wonder if this is the year we win.
Yeah, I'm okay with that. If you people, this is funny too, because people are like, Steve's far right. I'm like, there's nothing about the Republican Party I stand for. I think, well, am I on far right?
They're literally all like, I gotta put it. It's like I don't understand how cartoon, like Sunday morning cartoon villains somehow find their way into office, but apparently they've done that in the United States.
Oh, dude, I swear to God, our Congress is a joke, man. Some of the people in there are like,
it's bad.
I was like, I'm not used to, these people weren't qualified to be a fucking on the education board. These people are not even city council members, and yet they're on the Senate and the House. I mean, holy Christ, man. But yeah, this if you guys wanted to see that, if you guys want to see us like take like 20 milligrams of edibles and just philosophize, let me know in the comment section. I think it'd be pretty fun because you know what's so funny, when I get very mind clear, and if I take like a small amount, I can write, I think, pretty well. And
it's a creative boost.
Yeah, absolutely.
So like, it'll help your mind focus. It'll help you get those more abstract ideas out to where you can.
It really does.
The thing is articulating.
It'll slow your brain down.
It slows your brain down, and all the white noise and all. Because I'm always like going. People may not know this about me, but I think a lot, and even at work, I'm always thinking. And so when you do have those kind of medications like pot, it makes everything a little bit slower. You're able to think more clearly, and it gets rid of the background noise. But then you take too much, then it changes the whole different thing. I was so high inside my head like last week that I thought my eyes were like windows. You know, and I was just living, literally living inside my head my
soul can leave now.
Yeah, I had a mask on too, like, you know, those blinders thing, because I just wanted to like really relax, and so I was super dark, and I'm just thinking to myself, this is like death.
Steve McRae starts seeing his aura when he gets high is what I'm getting here.
I started having visions of angels and shit. Wow. But you know, it's funny because I have had lucid dreaming. But yeah, it's that sensation of, oh my God, this is like death. It's just nothing. I'm just nothing inside my head. It's scary, but at the same time, utterly fucking fascinating. You know?
Yeah, I mean, like I used to be able to induce the same thing because I used to identify as a shaman.
So you've
like that's a history.
Yeah, so you've had lucid dreaming and you've had transcendental meditation.
Oh, journey meditation,
yes,
dude.
Shit's real. People don't get that.
Like it will. Yeah, you get down there and you start getting really in. You start trancing. Like your brain will produce whatever drug you need to get high.
It's so funny because they you know, I'm tend to methodological naturalist, but I don't believe in the supernatural. And when I tell people, look, these experiences are real experiences. They are scientifically grounded. In fact, that people have certain types of these types of experiences, and one of which, when you have these altered states and transcendental meditations and lucid dreaming, this is not just people, making shit up. These are real things. Now, do I believe they're all internal? Yes. I don't believe it has, I don't. The other people will say, well, look, you actually are going somewhere, right? They're looking at externalist. I'm not. I'm an internalist when it comes to it.
Oh, yeah. But I used to be an externalist, but like
I can see why. I can see why. It's very convincing, isn't it?
Yeah, it is, because like you get to the point where you're like full on journey. It's almost like it is that imaginative part of you. It's that creative part of you. And then when you're in the trance, you no longer have the reasoning to be like, hey, stop what the fuck you're doing, because this is getting weird now.
Right.
And so your brain will just like start running off from itself. It's almost like it's almost like you separate yourself mentally.
Yeah, no, that's a great way to describe it. And, you have a lucid dream where you're physically at somewhere. And you're like, holy shit, I'm dreaming, I'm aware, but I also have tactile sensation. I can feel the wind in my hair. I can feel when I, touch my fingers together or something. You feel
it's
it.
Awesome.
Yeah. Because your brain is producing all these sensations, even though it's all mental, but you're living in a altered mental state, but it's super freaking real. And again, anybody who's never experienced it, it's hard to explain to them, and they think that maybe you're making shit up. You're not. And this is what I'm saying.
Yeah.
You and I may not agree on certain things, but I know you're telling me the truth about your experiences because I've had them myself, so I can relate to it. This is what I'm saying.
I thought I met a Greek admiral, and I'm not even fucking joking.
Oh,
and I came up with his name. I guess I pulled it out of my back of my subconscious, whatever, but I pulled a real Greek name out, and I thought I was having conversations with this guy as if I was walking in the afterlife. It was weird.
I've had full-on conversations with my dad. He's been deceased for 8 years. Full-on conversations. But then I think to myself, hey, wait, you're dead. He's like, yeah, so what? But we'll talk about stuff. I've had that happen. I think a lot of people have, and that's a whole different stream. When we should get high and talk about that. But anyways, I do got to go. Atlas, appreciate this, guys. Thanks for watching.
Hey, appreciate
this. I'm gonna go ahead and end the StreamYards. Okay.
Sure. See you.
Good night, bud. All right, guys. Thanks for watching this. This was a precursor to Sunday, which I think is going to be amazing. I think it's going to be an awesome topic. Again, it wasn't what I had originally planned for this month, but it's okay. I'm versatile and things change. But if you have some show ideas for Non Sequitur show, please let me know. I do have to again parse out when I can do them, and getting guests is difficult because I can't plan too far ahead. But if you'd like to see that, let me know in the video comment section. And if you again want to see, a high show or something like that, because I guess you could do that now on YouTube. A lot of people have those shows. Let me know, because that'd be fun. And also let me know what you think of this stream itself and on the issue itself. But make sure you do so intelligently and articulately. I have no desire to get into any conversations with people any longer that just are bottom of the barrel and fruit on the ground and just wants to throw out names and memes. They're a dime a dozen. Any idiot can do that. You're nothing special. I want somebody who can articulate and formulate positions and argue and discuss. And that's what I'm fostering. And that's what I've always fostered on this particular channel and the Non Sequitur show. And that's what I will continue to foster. And those who want to watch, they can appreciate that. And that's you guys out there. You're the audience. You guys have been watching this. You guys are appreciative of the talks. And again, it's not easy to go public to talk about these things. It really isn't. I respect those who come on panel, and I respect those who don't, because not everybody wants to do that. It is not as easy as it appears to some, so anyways, I do got to go, guys. I know I'm rambling. I just miss you guys, and I do want to keep this going, but I also got to go. So it sucks. But please leave a comment, and please promote this video and promote the show on Sunday. That's the best I can ask for people. If they want to support me and the channel, just promote it. It really makes a difference. All right. Thanks, guys. Good night, and we'll see you Sunday on the Non Sequitur show. I'm out.